like to bring this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Krinsky.
Present.
Garlevich.
Present.
Lang.
Present.
Mancia.
Present.
Petrielli present. Reed.
Present.
And Schumacher.
Wow, it's great to see the whole board here in person. Okay, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Now we're up to item 4.0, board member recognition.
Thank you, Janice. Tonight we have two board meetings, just so everyone is aware. The first board meeting will be our current board, and we will finalize any outstanding business for this current board. At that point, we'll seat the new board members, adjourn this meeting, and then start the second. But before we do that, we have two board members who are retiring off of the board, Chris and Janice, and I'd like to share a little bit of information about each, and then also present them with a token of District 59's appreciation. So Chris came onto the board probably at one of the most historically challenging times in the history of education. So if you recall, Chris filled his position, and then shortly thereafter, we were hit by the COVID pandemic. So his tenure on the board has been quite different, probably than any other board member's experience in the history of boardsmanship. But so in 2020, Chris was appointed to the Board of Education. Chris and his wife and family have lived in the district for 8 years now. Chris certainly has a vested interest in District 59. He has 4 children. He has one in first grade now, an incoming kindergarten student next year, and then 2 on deck, correct? Right. All right. Chris again was selected to fill the vacant board position. His initial platform was a focus on learning outcomes. He really wanted to try to maximize all the experiences children in District 59 had, and also wanted to support staff and families in that process. His focus quickly shifted, as many of you guys know, to really trying to get kids back in school. Chris was a strong advocate throughout the COVID crises of trying to think outside the box and come up with ways to, as quickly and safely as possible, return to in-person instruction. In the short time Chris was on the board, he was a strong advocate for public education, and now he shared with me that he's ready to hand off his work to the newly elected officials who will be seated later this evening. Chris, on behalf of District 59, I'd like to present you with this. I'll come over there. It's a lovely recognition plaque covered up.
Thank you, Chris, for your service.
Thank you. Next, we have Janice Krinsky. Her story is a little longer. Janice began working as a volunteer in the school district in the year 2000. So she's had over 21 years of literally volunteer service in district education. Janice's first experiences were working in Juliet Low. She served there as a room parent. She also served as a room parent at Ridge Family Center. She was an FTO member in a number of different schools. Janice worked tirelessly on successful passages of several referendums and bond issuance during those times, even prior to joining the Board of Education. Really important and much appreciated. Janice was one of the founding chairs of the District 59 Foundation. That education foundation has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for our students, for our families, and for our staff, and continues to do that. She only stepped down, I think, 2 years ago from that group, and I think you were off and on that committee for a number of years over the last 20 years, or since 2010. Mm-hmm. Janice has also worked on several board elections. She's recruited, she's campaigned, and she's really made an effort to try to make sure that governance in District 59 had quality candidates, successful candidates that would advocate for our students, our families, and our community. In 2011, she was appointed to the Board of Education. She's been a strong advocate, as many of you know, for a number of different causes, none more important than the work in social emotional learning. And also, she's been a strong advocate for social justice, equity, and diversity. Janice also was a strong advocate for parent and community involvement. She was a key founder and supporter of our Community and Family Engagement Committee, which has been ongoing for several years. That's chaired by Katie Ossel. And again, in an attempt to try to engage more of our families, to educate more of our community members about the importance of the work that we're doing in District 59. Janice also stressed the importance of early learning and promoted full-day kindergarten, as well as the ELC and the ELC expansion that happened 7 years ago. She supported the expansion of the dual language program. During her time in 59, Janice has always fought hard for the students, especially those in need. She's maintained high expectations for all. She's pushed for library cards for students living in the unincorporated area, spent countless of hours in classrooms reading to students, visiting with students and staff. She's volunteered a significant amount of time, donated financial resources, books for classrooms, libraries, and equally as important, Janice has done a lot of mentoring with not only current students, but also students who have left District 59 and have gone on to 214. One of her great passions also is to support kids with special needs. She served on the NSSEO governing board for 9 years, the last 3 as president. That was a profound passion and joy for Janice. Janice always put the needs of students in the forefront in every decision, really with an unwavering commitment to inclusion, equity, belonging, and integrity. So Janice, thank you for your 10 years of service as a board and 11 years as a volunteer before that. We appreciate all you've done for District 59.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a joy and a privilege to serve students, families, and staff in the district. There's nothing more important to me than quality education and equal rights for all students. And, you know, I've got other things I'm moving on to, and it's going to be great. I've given a lot to this district, and it's time to move on. So I'm looking forward to that. So with that said, we are coming up to comments and suggestions from the public. Has anybody come to speak before the board?
I think we're getting the list.
Oh, okay. All right. No, we haven't had to have a sign-up list in a while.
We'll look at the sign-up list first, and then for those who've not signed up, we'll call up additional people after we work through the sign-up list.
Sorry, what? Oh, yeah. We haven't had so many people here for so long that I've forgotten the process. This is the point of the meeting where we welcome public comments. Although comments may be made on almost any matter related to the operation of schools, comments will not be allowed concerning individual students or staff members. Any comments related to individual students or staff should be addressed in private with the superintendent. Please limit your individual comments to 3 minutes. A board member will serve as timekeeper and will give the speaker notice when there are 30 seconds remaining to allow the speaker time to complete or summarize their thoughts. The board's attorney has advised the board to maintain a consistent rule regarding the length of time an individual may take to address the Board of Education. Doing so safeguards the freedom of speech rights of each speaker to be treated equally. If one person is granted additional time, then all speakers henceforth will need to be treated similarly. This is a business meeting of the Board of Education, and the board must conduct its business in public and must complete that business in a timely manner. If you wish to provide written comments to the board, they will be included in the meeting minutes. Such meetings are not held for discussions with the public. While it is the practice of the board not to respond to public questions or comments during the meeting, board members do listen attentively and carefully and consider the thoughts and topics you present. So the first one, person who signed up to speak before the board is Sunil Bawe.
Keep this on. Keep my mask on.
Yeah, that's been our practice.
Okay.
Talk close to the microphone if you
I was hoping somebody else would go so I could see the mask etiquette, but all right. Good evening. My name is Sunil Bawe. I am from Arlington Heights. First, Chris, thank you for your service during a very tumultuous year. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Mencia, Mr. Sager, and Mrs. Spino on your recent election to the District 59 Board of Education. Congratulations. Also, I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Schumacher on her re-election to the school board. And if my math is correct, I think this is your 33rd year on the school board, Mardell, so that's quite an accomplishment. This election, however, has also created a fairly deep void in District 59. Janice Krinsky's service as a leader in this school district is coming to a close. Janice, on behalf of the many parents of the wonderful students of District 59, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you not only for your service on this school district's Board of Education, but thank you for your work with NSSEL and for all of the volunteer work that you have done on behalf of our students over the years. But I also want to say thank you for being a tireless and relentless advocate for students during your entire adult life. I remember the very first time I met Janice Krinsky, and I don't know if you remember, Janice, but it was around the time of the 2015 school board election. And we met at a small coffee shop. You remember that, Coffee Planet?
Yeah.
It's out of business now because we were their best customers. But Janice, I remember we spent, 3 or 4 hours sitting there together, the very first time we met, sharing our life experiences and discussing our visions for what we thought a 21st century education model should look like. And Janice, I can say, without a doubt, from that day until the present, I have witnessed firsthand your commitment to the students of District 59. I have watched you relentlessly advocate for social, emotional development, for equity in education, and I have seen you fight to close the achievement gap that is caused by income inequality. And you have always been a reliable and strong supporter of the parents of this school district as you fostered an environment that is inclusive, that is welcoming, and that is diverse. And so I thank you for all of that. Janice, I don't think this school district will ever be the same without you in your leadership roles. Since I've known you, I have thought of you as a wonderful neighbor. I've seen you as a champion for students, and I have always known you to be a fearless public official who holds strong to your convictions. But most of all, Janice, I want you to know that I will always think of you as my friend. So thank you for everything you've done for our students, our district, and our community. Thank you, Janice.
Thanks, Sunil. And I'll never stop being that advocate, it'll just be in a different capacity. The next person who has signed in is Cindy Keel.
Good evening, board. My name is Cindy Keel. I'm a Mount Prospect resident, but I'm also a teacher in the district, and my kids went to Forest View, Ridge, and Holmes. And unfortunately, Dr. Fessler and Sunil have said much of what was on my list, but I'll give you my personal experiences with Janice Krinsky. She came to volunteer in my classroom when I was part of the STAR plan at John Jay. John Jay had moved some teachers in and wanted to make the school a better place. And Janice was at the forefront of that remodel. And she volunteered in my classroom so often that one day she was there when the book fair was there, and she told every kid in my class to pick out a book for free, any book they wanted on the shelf. It was like Christmas at John Jay. A few years later, she was at my second grade classroom in Devonshire, and she would come in every Tuesday for writing. And when she wasn't there and it was a Tuesday, it was, where is Mrs. Krinsky? Isn't she going to write with us today? On a Tuesday that she was there, however, it was a fundraiser the PTO was doing, and the kids were going down to Santa's little village where they could buy Christmas presents for their parents. And so the kids who had brought their money in their lists were sent down to buy gifts, and I had, 4 or 5, maybe 6 kids left in the classroom, to which Janice pulled out her wallet and made sure every kid had a few dollars to go shopping. Janice has always been an advocate of social justice and equity, and since her reign on the board, I have seen that come to life more in District 59 than any of my 30 years teaching in the district. So Janice, with a big heart, I just want to thank you for what you've done for the families and the students, and for me as a teacher in my classroom. Thank you.
Thank you.
And good luck to the board and all the board. Your volunteerism is just, I don't think people realize what you do and what you go through. And I only know because I was married to one of you.
Thank you, Cindy, and you know I'm still available to volunteer in classrooms. Brian Keel, actually, who we just spoke of, was formerly on the board. It's one of the races I helped with.
Good evening, Dr. Fessler, Janice, and the board. Congratulations to those new members on the board and also those leaving. Thank you for your service, for everyone. I first met Janice back when Ridge Family Center for Learning opened, and that was a big job to get that school focused on the kids and what we're doing. I've kind of followed Janice in a lot of the work that she's helped for the district. She got me involved with the Education Foundation. She helped me see the need that I should run for the Board of Education. So I was on the board for 8 years and then served with Janice for several years also. So I just want to thank her for all her service and dedication to the district and to the students and helping getting people involved, because I know a lot of board members here today too have gotten involved because of Janice's guidance and leadership and getting us excited about what we can do for the school district and for all the kids at the school district. So thank you, Janice. We appreciate everything you've done and look forward to what you do in the future also. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Brian was one of the people that was actually central to the debt service extension-based referendum passage in 2003 that Dr. Fessler referenced, and we passed that in 6 weeks with a little band of people. The plaque is actually up on the board, up on the wall now, by the way, with our names on it. But if we hadn't passed that referendum, there were teachers that would have been let go because there wasn't enough money freed up to pay for salaries if we didn't pass that referendum. So Brian and I have been in the trenches for a long time, and Cindy and Brian and I first met when our kids were all at Ridge, so it's been a long time. Sorry about that diversion. Jessica Martinson is the next one that signed in to speak.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Martinson, and I'm a District 59 parent as well as an experienced elementary school principal. I came tonight because I wanted to thank Janice Krinsky for all of her service for the students of District 59. I met Janice when my daughter was in 2nd grade at Juliet Lowe School, and I had at that time some serious concerns about the curriculum in District 59. In fact, I had met not that long before I met Janice with Dr. Fessler because I said, hey, do you know what you're getting into? Anyways, Janice recognized the need to update the curriculum and instructional practices and quickly took action to do so. She worked to recruit and mentor new board members for both the school board and the District 59 Education Foundation. She's represented and supported the needs of all of our children, working tirelessly to ensure equity and opportunities for all the children. These are just some of the things that I've had firsthand experience with her as a parent. I know that there's been so much more. I experienced firsthand the improvement in my daughter's educational experience in District 59 as a result of Janice Krinsky's hard work and dedication, and I'm here to thank her for everything that she's done for my daughter, but also for all the children in School District 59 during her tenure on the school board. My daughter is now a thriving freshman at Rolling Meadows High School, and I know that it's due to a lot of the work that Janice did while she was here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, Jessica and I served on the foundation board together, and that's how we met. Andrea Cohn is signed up next.
Hello, good evening, Board of Education. My name's Andrea Cohn, and I am now a multilingual program facilitator for the district. But before that, I worked as a coach in Rupley, and before that, I worked in John Jay as a dual language teacher. And I'm here tonight to thank Janice as well. And I met Janice in 2011 through Cindy Keel, when she was volunteering in Cindy Keel's class. And Janice and I got to know each other, and she had extreme passion for anything speaking Spanish and dual language and our students' culture and what our students need. And she volunteered in my classroom for about 3 years, and I have to say, both myself and my students were amazed by her generosity and time and money that she put into those students. How she advocated for all the students, because I had students at that time that was just at the same, like Cindy Keel said, when John Jay was just beginning the STAR program, and I had students that needed hearing aids that never had them. I had students that needed glasses that never got them, and Janice was behind that and fighting for them nonstop. And I think that also came with me to do house visits to drop off presents at Christmas for those same students. So it was just the show of outrageous love that you gave to my students. I think they will never forget that. And I'm here today to thank you for that devotion and being such an advocate for our students. And I want to thank you with all my heart. I mean it with all my heart. And those students that were lucky enough to cross paths with you will never forget it. And I'm really honored to call you my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, I'm really touched by everything you're all saying. It's really nice. Has anybody else come to speak before the board? Mary Vickers.
Pardon me? Yeah, okay. Congratulations to Mardell, Robert, Joe, and Daisy. It's an honor for the 59 voters to have elected you to represent them on the school board. When residents speak before the board, I hope you will listen and respond to them. I hope when they email or call you, you will respond with your opinions instead of everything going through the president. They want to know how you think. How else will they know who to vote for in the next election? Except for Mardell, this is a new board from when I started coming to the meetings over 3 years ago. You will need the history and the background that Mardell can provide you. Mardell, I hope you will continue to advocate for our Hispanic students in the one-way dual language program. It's not right that District 59 segregates them for most of their time in elementary school, and it's not right when they enter junior high, they don't have the English they need to be successful. I hope you will continue to advocate for all 59 residents, whether they have children currently in the district or not. With a new superintendent and a new board, I am hopeful that District 59 can move forward on improving academics for all children. When test scores decline for many years, for many groups, that's a worrisome sign. I hope you're finally able to come up with a strong curriculum that sets high standards and challenges all students. Look what other neighboring districts are teaching. It's not hard to come up with a good curriculum. This district has failed to do so because the leadership never wanted to. Watch the new superintendent. Do not wait 8 years when academics continue to decline and finances are not managed properly to make changes. Give the new superintendent time, but watch her. That's your job. Most importantly, keep the conversations to 59 matters. Do not allow board members and community members to make unfounded, racist accusations about others. Some of you were on the board when a gentleman accused others in the community of being racist. He said he had evidence, but never offered any proof. He sounded like Joe McCarthy did in the 1950s. McCarthy said he knew there were communists in the State Department, but he never offered any proof, just like this gentleman. That gentleman should never have been allowed to speak. In the past election, a board member accused others of being racist and made ageist remarks. These unfounded accusations of racism and ageist remarks should never be allowed. Quit playing the race card when others do not agree with you. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, and good luck to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, is somebody else come to speak before the board? Come on up, please.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm here because I want to thank
Can we have your name
Janice.
first?
I'm sorry?
Can we have your name?
Yes, of course. My name is Sofia Gonzalez. I work at Robert Frost School. Janice has always been a friendly face that I saw at the board meetings when we used to come to the meetings. She always greeted me by name. She always knew who I was. She always took the time and the effort to know all of us in District 59. What I'm telling you right now is not just my experience with Janice, but the experiences of several teachers, and we all put together what I'm about to tell you. Throughout the years, she has always greeted us with enthusiasm. She always, at every encounter, she told us something about her life. She shared a little bit of her wisdom, and she advocated strongly for our students. Every single person that I've met in the district has told me an experience or an anecdote of how Janice made a difference in their lives. And she never did it for political gain. She never did it because she wanted to be better than anybody else. She did it because this is who she is, an advocate, a strong advocate for students and teachers. And like Dr. Fesser said she was doing this before she was even a board member. So this is Janice's life. This is not just something that she does for gain. During the years that I've been in the district, she visited classrooms. Her time when she was not engaged in district work was devoted to being a positive role model for students and teachers. She read countless books to children and invested heavily in classroom libraries. She volunteered and attended student clubs. She funded teacher classroom projects through GoFund pages and bought materials and furniture for teachers. Her dedication to us is incomparable, especially the dual language teachers. She is a strong advocate of language, and her support helped make the dual language program one of the strongest in the area. And even though some people might disagree, our language program has a sound philosophy, and our students are thriving. Some of us remember the first time when she spoke at the graduation ceremony, and some of what the parents said is this: "Está hablando español." She's speaking Spanish. Nos está hablando a nosotros.
30 seconds.
She's giving us good advice. Her comments in Spanish to those students who were graduating were well received, and were well received every time after that she spoke in Spanish to them. However, I think that her most important work for our district was in the last year, where she has steered our district into looking inward and looking at our practices and making sure that we do not have unjust or unfair educational practices. I really, Janice, really, from the bottom of my heart, from all of us, the dual language teachers, want to thank you for everything that you've done, for all the money that you've invested, for all the time that you've put into our classrooms, and for all the work that you've done. Thank you very much, Janice.
Thank you. It's truly been my life's passion since I was 9 years old and saw naked racism against family friends. So it's just part of who I am. Has anybody else come to speak before the board?
Janice, may a board member share a public comment from the podium?
Sure.
I'm Courtney Lang, a board member and parent at Juliet Low, and I just wanted to say a couple of words to my colleagues, Chris and Janice. Chris, thank you for your service to the District 59 community. On top of running your own investment business and raising 4 young children, you stepped up to fill a vacancy on the board in what proved to be a critically challenging year with a global pandemic and a superintendency search. Yet you rose to the challenge with grace and fortitude. You are a high-level strategic thinker and I appreciate the way you respectfully question the status quo, pushing the district to be ever better. I will always remember your comment that a decision is not a destination, it's a step along the journey. As a fellow board member and parent, I thank you. Janice, thank you for your service to the District 59 community. You have been a tireless advocate, ensuring that all children have equal access to a high-quality public education, both as president of this board and the Northwest Suburban Special Education Organization. On top of your leadership roles, as people have spoken to tonight, you have volunteered countless hours in our schools and as a mentor to students. You have championed the critical importance of early learning and the development of the Early Learning Center, as well as our dual language programs and a holistic approach to education. You helped to guide and lead our board through the challenges of a global pandemic. Your passion for social justice, your sharp intellect, and your inquisitive nature have propelled this board forward. One of the things that I respect most about your leadership is that you are not here for you, you are here for the kids. And for this reason, you have always sought to empower the next generation of board members. Your legacy goes before you. As a fellow board member and parent, I thank you deeply.
Thank you, Courtney. You're making me cry. That was very nice. Thank you, everybody who came to speak. It really means a lot to me. Let's move on now. We are at the consent agenda, and do we have anything that needs to be pulled from this consent agenda? Courtney, I believe you had something.
Thank you. I'm reorganizing myself. Yes, I would like to pull item 6.04, the Human Resources Report, from the consent agenda.
A specific one, I think, isn't it
6.04,
A?
Section A.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Anything else to be pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, so wait, we were supposed to make a motion first and then pull it. So would somebody please make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make it. Be resolved that on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approved the consent agenda as presented and amended. 6.01, approval of minutes of prior meetings. 6.02, disbursements resolution. 6.03, acceptance of financial reports. 6.04, with the exception of A, administrative contract, so it would be the acceptance of recommendations, human resources report. Exception to A. 6.05, approval to destroy 18-month-old or older closed session recordings. 6.06, approval to release certain closed session minutes. And 6.07, approval of press policy exhibits.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Patty seconds, and Mardell made the exception of 6.04A, so we are approving everything except 6.04A. Roll call, please.
Garlovich.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Schumacher. Aye. And Krinsky.
Aye.
And the motion carries.
Okay, now we need to take up 6.03A. Would somebody please make the motion for that? Yeah, 6.04A. Did I say 3? I'm sorry. 6.04A.
I'll make the motion that we approve 6.04A, the acceptance of human resource recommendations, administrative contracts.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mardell seconds. Roll call, please. No, I don't think.
I'll just give a quick comment that
Okay,
I'm
if you want to.
recusing myself from voting on this matter because I am neighbors and our sons are good friends with Michael Wheatley, who is the candidate for principal at Friendship.
Okay, roll call, please.
Lang. You're abstaining.
Abstain.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrielli. Aye. Reed.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Now we are up to the action items. Would someone please like to make a motion for 7.01? What?
I can do it, Patty, if you'd like to second.
Mike, sorry. Be it resolved that on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education ratifies a new 5-year agreement between the Board of Education and District Education Association. This agreement will be in effect from the 2021-2022 through 2025-2026 contract years for the educational support professional staff. The new 5-year agreement includes changes to compensation. The recommendation average salary increases per fiscal year are as follows: 2021-22, 3.5%, 2022-23, 3.25%, 2023-24, 3.25%, 2024-25, 3.25%, and 2025-2026, 3.0.
I'll second, Patty.
Okay, and Courtney.
Roll call, please.
Before I make a roll call, I want to thank everybody that was involved. I know there are a lot of people involved. Please stand up, everybody that was part of the team. I know the teachers were involved, admin staff. Yes, Robert, Ross, everybody stand. I want just to see how everybody's involved in this negotiations. Patty, you can stand too.
Okey-doke.
So, I mean, this is not done with, carelessly and stuff like that. There was a lot of people that were working behind the scenes to get this done, and I want to thank you for a 5-year contract. Good faith negotiations, everything that was done. So great job, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, and now I'm doing the roll call, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mancia,
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
Krinsky,
Aye.
Garlovich,
Aye.
and Lang.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Now we're up to 7.02. Would somebody make a motion for that?
I'll make the motion on this one. Be it resolved by the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District Number 59, Cook County, Illinois, as follows. The board hereby finds and determines that its superintendent, Dr. Arthur Fessler, has accumulated an unused vacation days, that he is entitled to payment for those days under his performance-based superintendent's agreement, July 1st, 2016 through June 30th, 2021, and that such payment shall be made pursuant to the terms of the vacation payment agreement. The board hereby approves the vacation payment agreement with Dr. Fessler substantially in the form attached as Exhibit A. The board president and secretary are authorized to execute the vacation payment agreement for the board. This resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its adoption.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I think it might make sense to explain what this is right now, and that is that Dr. Fessler asked to have the money, instead of taking the vacation, transferred over to another organization so that he could work out the last part of his years so that he could get full retirement. And at the same time, it is saving the district substantially because it is preventing the district from having to pay penalties to TRS for that money if he were to have gotten it this year. So it's a benefit to the district, it's a benefit to Dr. Fessler, and it's a benefit to the organization where he is going to be doing some additional work for those last 170 days. Did you want to, anybody else want to make a comment?
I think if I could clarify it a little further too. The agreement, while it's called a vacation payout agreement, does not result in any fees paid to Dr. Fessler. We are paying another organization directly who will then employ or enter into a contract with Dr. Fessler, but it is a benefit to both the district and Dr. Fessler. It is a savings, substantial savings to the district as a result, but it is payments of fees owed to Dr. Fessler paid to a third party that will then in turn pay Dr. Fessler for that.
Right, right. It's what he would have gotten paid for if we had paid him directly, but instead the money's going to go to another organization and saving us substantially by not having to pay those penalties. So, roll call, please.
Okay, I've got the new board on this, so,
No, that's not correct.
no. So I'm gonna use a different one. We've got you guys, this is about our, and this is the new,
You can scratch out those other names.
yeah, I'm gonna,
Just go up to this one, read it.
yeah, I am gonna, but I just wanted you to know, the new board. Let's see, where am I? Petrielli? Aye. Reed?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Krinsky?
Aye.
Garlevich?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
And that's it, and the motion passes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, where are we now? Yes, are there any continuing business and announcements to come before the board?
I'll just say a quick thank you to Chris and Janice for everything you've done. I do appreciate the work you guys have done. So thank you for everything you've done for this district and for us as humans.
Thank you. Well, I think as a human, you deserve that. Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing none. Now we're up to probably the most exciting part of the meeting, which is to seat the new board members. And this is a little bit of a change for us because in the past, that's been done by the incoming board, not the outgoing board, but it was a recommendation from the district's attorney to do it this way. So as my last act, I will ask the new board members to come up and to stand before the board. And also, it is a tradition for the district to make sure that everybody reads the oath of office together.
Oh, wait.
So please, you can stand if you wish. Absolutely. All right, so if you're ready, please start. Vice President Randall?
I, Randy Reed, do solemnly swear.
Wait, you should read them all
Okay.
together.
I
Do
solemnly
swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education, Community
Consolidated School District 59, in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability. I further swear that
respect
taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual, and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting. I shall abide by a majority decision of the board, while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels. As part of the Board of Education, I shall accept my responsibility for my role in equitable and quality education of every student in the school district. I shall foster with the board extensive participation of the community, formulate goals, define outcomes, and set the course for Community Consolidated School District 59. I shall assist in establishing a structure and environment designed to ensure all students have the opportunity to attain their maximum potential through a sound organizational framework. I shall strive to ensure a continuous assessment of student achievement and all conditions affecting the education of our children in accordance with state law. I shall serve as education's key advocate on behalf of students in our community schools to advance the vision for Community Consolidated School District 59. I shall strive to work together with the district superintendent to lead the district board fulfilling the vision the board has created, fostering excellence for every student in the area of academic skills, knowledge, citizenship, and personal development.
The
The board, president.
Nope.
All right, good job, you guys.
Trying puffing your mouth like that.
You can just sit down, please, I signed it.
Okay.
You'll be happy to know that that only takes place once a year, so it's not something you have to do all the time. I just wanted to say I am very happy for all the incoming board members, and I think you are all going to make a tremendous stamp impact on this district, and I'm really proud and looking forward to seeing what great things are coming up with your leadership in place.
Yeah, and if I can make a quick comment too, just a congratulations, and I know you are probably nervous right now, and you're probably watching saying, am I going to be able to do this? But you will be able to do this, and we're confident that you'll be able to do this. And the only way that we're going to be able to succeed is with your participation and with your input. So do not be afraid. You belong on this board. You belong in this district. And we're looking forward to working with you here. So congratulations.
Okay, I also just want to say one last thing. I kind of got lost in the emotion. I just want to thank everybody and for the friendship, the opportunities to grow, the opportunities to learn together with you, with the staff, with the parents, with especially the administration. We've learned so much together, and you've taught me so much. And it's been a great 10 years, and I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to serve. And with the new board coming in, I'm just looking forward to more great things. So with that, will someone make a motion to adjourn?
I can make the motion.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll third it.
Yeah, and you're going to get out of here really early tonight, Chris. Really early.
Me and Courtney.
Okay.
Be it resolved that the third day of May 2021 is the signed-in adjournment date for the current Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education.
That actually doesn't mean anything. I read about it, but you can call it that.
I was like,
It's okay. A roll call, please.
For the last time. Krinsky.
Aye.
Garlovich, last time.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Petrelli, aye. Reed.
aye.
Schumacher. Aye. And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
both.
right, good evening, everybody. Let's call our second meeting. It's now 8 o'clock. Roll call, please. Oh, sorry, designation of Secretary Pro Tem. That would be you.
Got ya. Daisy, is it Espino?
Espino, yeah.
Espino?
Espino, you got it.
Are you present?
Present?
Clay?
Present.
Mencia?
Present.
Shirley present. Reed?
Present.
Sager.
Sager, gotcha.
There you go.
Okay.
Present.
Sager? And Schumacher? Present. And we're all here. Yep,
You're on, he's SP, is it?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Aren't you SP, Sager? Oh, you're, spell your name.
Sager.
Okay, okay. Yeah, okay.
All right, the first item on the agenda is a reorganization. As vice president, I guess I get to take that over now. We don't have a president. The first thing we have is a determination of length of office for the vice president, president, and secretary of the Board of Education. Currently, we do currently with the one-year term that we do here in the district, we can do up to 2 years, but it has been the tradition to do 1 year. Does anybody have a disagreement with 1 year or 2 year?
I would recommend keeping it at 1 year.
I would agree.
Yeah, 1 year.
Okay,
So 1 year?
yep. Establishment of stipend for the Board of Education Secretary. There is a rule or law within the state.
You want to take action on these as we go?
We take action on them?
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
So,
So I'll move that we, for 4.01, I'll make the motion that we set the term length at 1 year.
And I'll second that.
What, now, this is for the stipend?
No.
No, this is for, I'll read the full motion. Be it resolved that on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education establishes the length of office for the president, vice president, and secretary to be for a period of 1 year. The next election of officers will be held in 2022.
Yeah, Robert did, I did.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
Shirley, aye. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
And Schumacher? Aye. And the motion passes.
See, your first votes.
Yep. All right. The second item is talking about the stipend for the board secretary. In the past, board policy was saying that we would pay the secretary $200 for services because they do a little bit extra with maintaining the minutes, collecting, signing of the documents and stuff like that. In the past, we have stopped paying that, and I kind of think we should continue that because we all love doing this because it's a volunteer unpaid position, so you don't get any more.
That $1 million you guys were gonna pay.
Yeah, uh-huh.
In the past, usually what the secretary would do, then donate it to some charitable organization, and then we change it.
Oh.
We stopped doing it altogether.
Yeah.
The Heart Association or Cancer Fund or.
Oh, I would have liked to do that.
The secretary never took it for herself, or himself. It was always a donation. So we decided that was silly, we might as well just stop it. Which we did.
I'm in agreement with stopping it if Patty's okay.
I'm okay with that. I would like the donation part. I thought that was kind of cool. So who's doing the motion?
I just was giving a background, so everyone's okay with no stipend?
Yep, I can make the motion. Be it resolved that on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education establishes an annual stipend of $0 to be paid to the elected board secretary as compensation for the performance of the duties of this office.
Okay, and, Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
Shirley, aye. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
And Schumacher? Aye. And the motion passes because it's not $1 million. This is. Yeah, but she's the first one on the list, so. Oh, shoot, I forgot. All right, got it. I got it. It's okay.
All right. 4.03, nomination and election of the board president.
Is this right with my nomination?
You want.
I nominate Randy Reed for president.
I will second that.
Are there any other nominations? Nobody else? Nobody else? Joanne? All right.
So, motion, I'll make the motion. Be it resolved on the third day of May 2021, Randall Reed is elected president of this Board of Education.
Actually, you haven't had, did you all vote on him? Right now.
Yeah.
You just vote on.
Well, there's only one nominee, and we're going to vote right now. It's a yay or nay. Or
Should be
say-
voting on.
I didn't do the vote roll call yet.
Well, but it should be. I mean, we can't just say he wants it, so we're. Right.
Yeah, but we're not, we're putting his name in as the nominee.
Vote on it right now.
That was the motion that was read.
Mhm.
Now there was a second, now we're
Yeah, unless, yeah.
Okay, we need a second.
I will second.
Okay, now here's the vote. Espino.
Aye.
Oh, wait a minute, I did it again. I'll start with Lang. Lang,
Aye.
Mencia,
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed?
I'll abstain voting for myself.
You don't want to vote for yourself, huh? Sager?
Aye.
And Schumacher? Aye. And now, I'll do Espino.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Congratulations.
All right, congrats, Randy.
Uh-huh. Now we're on to the nomination and election of the vice president of the Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Courtney Lang for vice president.
I will second that.
Are there any nominations?
Anybody else? No? No takers? Okay.
Roll call.
Mencia?
Aye.
Petrielli, aye. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
And Lang.
Aye.
You can't vote for yourself, can
Sure
you?
you can.
Okay, go ahead.
I will vote for myself. Aye.
And the motion passes.
Yeah.
Okay. Done deal.
Just a reminder, make sure your microphones are green and that you're talking closely to them.
I just turned it on, sorry.
Say it again, Mark.
Make sure that your microphone is turned on and you're talking closely to them so the audience and then those streaming can hear us.
Next item on the agenda is item 4.05, nomination for the secretary. I nominate Patty Patrielli, since you got me to be president.
I will second.
Are there any other nominations?
Nobody wants to write? Okay.
Roll call, please.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Let's see, where was I? Oh, Petrielli, of course. Aye. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
Aye.
Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
And Mencia?
Aye.
I will be writing for another year. Thank you very much.
There you go. Congrats.
You are welcome.
Next item on the agenda is item 4.06, the set time, dates, and location for regular meetings of the Board of Education for the 2021-2022 school year. Currently, we have Mondays slated in the schedule to start at 7 o'clock. I know when I first came on the board, I suggested we maybe move it up to 6 o'clock because our board meetings were going quite long, and to try and get out of there for family time and for those of us that had to work the next day. Is that something I consider? Does Monday work for everybody? Does the different day work?
How long have we been doing 7 o'clocks?
Forever,
Forever, yeah, as long as I know,
Yeah.
as long as I've known.
forever.
Mhm.
I think your point is a good one, Randy, but I think you also have to think about the people who want to come and be part of the audience. And
Well-
all of them may not be able to make it before.
Or if we have teachers or
Yeah, well,
school
and then,
groups
but
coming.
also if you think about it, if we start at 6 o'clock, the teachers that want to come or people, I mean,
Well,
co-
but
coming
not
at-
only the teachers, it's anybody else who has any outside job.
right, but if they want to stay for the whole meeting, they're missing the end of the meeting though, too, the later part of the meeting then too, because, probably the meeting goes long, we have a long discussion, sometimes we're at 10 o'clock, we're still having discussion about whatever discussion topics we have, and that gets late for for individuals as well, too.
I personally don't like 6 o'clock, that's just too early, that's separate time.
Okay?
I would be open to coming earlier, but I'm interested to know what the admin and staff feel about that.
I would be interested in it as well.
Yeah, I think in the past year, granted, it's been a different year, we left before 9 o'clock maybe once, you know? So, you know, we're here late, the admins are here late, some of our staff members are here late. So, yeah, if there's any thoughts on that from anyone in attendance?
They're all going to be quiet, I can see it
Yeah.
already.
I think Ron said start at 8 PM. Is that 8 PM, Ron? Is that what you're saying?
So I think,
Thank you, Anne.
Staff seem to be nodding their heads. Staff
Yeah.
who disagree, will you shake your heads maybe?
what
Yeah.
about SLT members? We can get a little nod, is okay, or a shaking head, no.
You know,
Come on, Tom, I know you. I'm frozen. You're frozen? I mean, how about we try 6? Will we start at 6:30?
Well, I like the 6 o'clock start time. It is one Monday a month that we would be here 1 hour earlier. Because eventually we're going to open up these doors, more people are going to come in, more kids are going to come in, and more teachers are going to come in. And it is just one day that they're going to have to maybe adjust their schedule a little earlier, eat a little earlier, but at the end of the day, we're not going to be here longer, and everyone else won't be here longer. So I would say 6 o'clock.
I agree.
Okay.
Actually, the proposal does not have a time in it, so
We would put the time in there as part of the proposal. Oh, we don't have it in there.
Right above dated, just at the very bottom.
Yeah, for all the dates, if you look on the screen, you can see where it's at, Randy.
Yeah, meetings will be at 7 PM, so we would change that to 6 PM then?
Yeah.
Joe, Daisy, any thoughts?
I'm fine with it.
You
Yeah,
good with that?
I think 6 o'clock is great. You know, hopefully eventually we'll have students back in here presenting
Yeah, that's
projects
true,
and
too.
stuff, and they can then get home. You know, they're here for the first half hour or whatever. It's better 6 o'clock than 7 o'clock.
I like that. All right, so
All right. So
motion made by,
I don't think anybody's actually made the motion. I kind of started talking about it beforehand.
I'll make the motion since I talked the most here.
Robert.
Yeah. Do I need to read? Be it resolved on the 3rd day of May, 2021, the District 59 Board of Education hereby sets the date, time, and place for its regular meetings in accordance with the listing of meeting dates and times attached to this resolution.
seconded by
Me, seconded.
Joe.
Joe?
Make sure you're speaking up, Joe.
My thing's lit.
Yeah, that's
Seconded.
Okay, roll call. Reed?
Aye.
Sager?
Aye.
Schumacher?
nay.
Nay. Espino?
Aye.
Lang?
Aye.
Mencia?
Aye.
Petrielli? Aye. Okay,
And
and the
these will be-
motion passes.
And these would begin in July? Is that when this would?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our current meetings are set for 7 o'clock through the end of this fiscal year until July, the beginning of July.
I think we'll want to do just a really good job of communicating it out, since for all eternity it's been 7.
It might be better to wait until you have a new superintendent anyway, and right with the new superintendent.
Yeah.
Good point.
Item 4.07 on the agenda is the appointment of ISAB governing board representative. This is the individual that will be the representative for the North Cook County, will be our voting member at the annual conference, and will be attending their meetings. And I believe,
Is it Mardell this year? Is that, Mardell, was that you this year?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to do that for you.
appreciate it, Mardell. Do we have an alternate?
Pardon me?
Do we have an alternate just in case you can't make it?
Well, actually, all the board members usually try to make it, so
Right,
it's
no,
not
but-
like would be the only one going.
Well,
It's
this
same
would be
thing
like
with
to the
Ed Red.
delegate, this would be like to the delegate meetings. There are some responsibilities associated with this job that if you can't make it to those,
Well,
di-
who'd like to do
exceptional.
it if I can't
I'll
make
be
it?
your
Okay.
backup.
all of you are invited to Ed
Right.
Red meetings.
Yeah.
All of you are invited to North Cook Division meetings. All of you are invited to the Illinois Association of School
Yep.
Boards and to the NSBA. Everybody's invited. I will be your representative, but you're all invited.
Motion made by,
I'll make the motion. Be it resolved that on the third day of May 2021, Mardell Schumacher is appointed as the School District 59 IASB Governing Board Representative. Courtney Lang shall serve as an alternate for the IASB Governing Board.
I'll second it.
okay. Sager,
Aye.
Schumacher,
Aye.
Espino,
Aye.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia,
Aye.
Petrilli, aye, and Reed.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
All right, item 5.0, comments and suggestions from the public. Do we have anybody that would like to make a comment? Nope. You want me to read this again, Ann? All the 3 minutes and stuff?
Oh, it'll be quick.
Okay.
Hi, Ann Wing, DEA President. I just wanted to welcome the new board members. We're very excited to work with you guys. I also wanted to thank the Board of Education for the ESP contract and the superintendency team that helped. It was really just a fabulous process. We worked with Patty. She did a great job. Everyone did. So thank you guys so much. You guys you've been very kind to us this year. We really appreciate all that you've done to support the staff and the students of District 59. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll go on to our NSSCO tentative budget presentation. Welcome, Judy, and, oh my God, Julie, welcome. This is the fun part of the meeting.
All right, make sure I'm talking loud. Good evening, everyone. And thank you. It's our honor to be here, and welcome to our new board members. I know Joe is going to be the liaison for the NSSCO Governing Board, so we're looking forward to that. And congratulations to you as well, Daisy.
Judy, can you start with an overview of how NSSCO services District 59 and District 59
I will
students?
gladly.
Thanks.
So you should have in front of
Speak
you.
directly into your microphone.
Thank you, Mardell. I have such a little voice, too.
Well, it's the mask.
I know. Let me belt it out like a former sports mom.
That sounds better.
Okay, thank you. And again, in front of you, we decided that we would do a little bit of a presentation, but we also have in front of you an NSSCO highlights, an overview, really brief, about NSSCO and the relationship with District 59, as well as our continuous improvement plan that we update annually, and the dashboard indicators, the measures that we use in terms of our progress on an annual, actually on a monthly basis. So we have included both of those for you. And we know that there are some of you that are have not had a lot of experience with NSSCO. We have had a long-standing partnership with District 59. I have been here many times before. And Julie has been with me many of those times. So we really wanted to just kind of highlight a little bit of that for some of you that aren't familiar with it, as well as just a kind of a review for others. Clearly, we already know how challenging this year has been, but we also know that the partnerships that we have with District 59 and our other member districts have been crucial in our progress through really tough times. NSSCO is a legal school district, and it was formed back in 1968. And certainly has evolved significantly and dramatically, thankfully, for the past 52 years or so, in terms of the kinds of programs that we run, the kinds of services, the kinds of supports that we have, and really looking at the depth and programming from a person-centered, inclusive mindset for students with special needs. We collaborate with districts and other entities. We work really hard on what we believe is critical in a cooperative is really partnerships with our agencies, partnerships with the state board, partnerships on other organizations. Dr. Fessler and I serve on the national organization of AASA and IASA, which is our state one. It's really important to kind of look at all the ways that we can connect to others on behalf of students with special needs. We run a series of programs really through a person-centered. So
many years ago when I was a teacher. Julie and I both taught back in the 80s. It was a really very different time in special education. And so we really spent more of our time back then identifying students with disabilities. And now, thankfully, we have progressed in terms of really looking at what does each individual student need for their support. So we have 3 of our kind of anchor programs. Kirk, which is our secondary school for students that are in their high school all the way up to age 22. Minor, which is our early childhood through 8th grade, and that is also for students with significant needs and diverse different kinds of labels, many of them with social emotional needs and cognitive needs, multiple needs. And then Timber Ridge is our alternative therapeutic program. We also service our deaf and hard of hearing students beyond our 8 school districts here, but 45 of them across this region. And we also service students with vision impairments. We provide OTPTs. In fact, District 59 has several of our contract occupational therapists and physical therapists. And then we do a number of other kind of partnership technical supports, as well as Sunrise Lake Educational Center, which we'll talk a little bit more about. We provide professional learning opportunities, working really closely with staff, with families, with parents, our program staff, as well as any of our member districts as well. So those are kind of like, in a nutshell, a number of those. We have 8 member districts, and those are included in here: 21, 57, 59, 25, 26, 23, 25, 211, and 214. And those are about a little over 50,000 in the kind of catchment area. Obviously, we serve a subsection of that in terms of our direct programming. So those are like kind of the big pieces of that. We have some satellite programs as well in Wheeling District 21 and in 26 and in 62. And those are for our deaf and hard of hearing students. And we've had those programs for a number of years as well. Our vision is right there on the front that you saw: enhancing students' talents and dreams for a promising future. Everything that we do in NSSEO is focused on the future of our students. So we think about what our educational plans are, really our students' life plans. The kinds of things that we're going to put together and focus on in programs are really going to build those skills, problem-solving skills, coping skills, resilience, confidence, to help them as they progress into adulthood and develop their own life plans. So that piece is critical for us as well. In front of you is really the continuous improvement plan. And if you came to any one of our board meetings, we have them as well on a monthly basis. Every month we celebrate our students and a shining star, but we also connect that to one of the goals here. And so it's really kind of looking at that through the student lens. How have they achieved some of their social emotional learning? What are some of the kinds of things that have been a school-centered learning environment or a partnership? So we highlight that, as well as we use our dashboard to kind of say, here's where we're at in terms of our growth. So you wouldn't see scores on a regular basis if you came to our board meeting, but you would see us highlight the progress we're making on our goals on a monthly basis, as well as quarterly, and then at the end of the school year as well. So each one of those certainly has been a focus for us this year. We had to do a lot, just like every place. We really had to do a lot of customization and re-engaging and refocusing because we put together a remote plan in a week for students that we would never have thought or suggested remote learning for. But we carried it off, and we have incredibly talented staff that help support that. We did notice, too, that the social emotional piece was really an important focus, as it is here in District 59. Developing resilience, really working with our families to navigate all of the challenges associated with the pandemic and helping support their children at home. And then really all of the kinds of things that we could do to help families navigate resources and help our staff reach out to our families in many creative ways. We went through several different changes in our planning. We had a re-engage in learning committee started back in last spring and they'd been meeting all summer. We had several different revisions, as I'm sure you did, of the plans as we navigated remote and hybrid and adaptive pauses and beyond. And transition, we have students in secondary that couldn't go out to communities, so we brought community to them, whether it was their home and whether it was a micro business when we were open. So we developed a lot of creative things that students could do to kind of create community experiences for them in lots of creative ways. And last, as I mentioned, is the collaborative partnerships. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but certainly those things that really access that. The other piece is really our themes in professional learning, and it's those 4 big things that really have been a part of kind of the cornerstone of really professional learning doesn't happen. Gosh, we couldn't sit and get if we wanted to last year, so we did so much remotely or virtually or zoomed in and out quite a bit. So we also know that some of the value added in terms of professional learning is through coaching. So for every kind of thing, and that will expand next year, every kind of training that we provide, some kinds of connections. We have dived into cognitive coaching this year, which really builds capacity of our educators, really engaging our families. So we have a Parent Education Resource Center, and in that we do advocacy training for parents, a lot of supports for them in lots of different kinds of ways on transition, on linkages, on communities, on helping navigate resources for their family, and as I mentioned, social, emotional, and social thinking, and behavior supports. A very big component of many of the students in our programs are really developing ways to cope and ways to navigate the kinds of behavioral supports that help them be successful in transition to their home districts. I'd like to hand it over to Julie to talk a little bit more about contextually how the budget helps support the kinds of things that we do at NSSCO.
NSSCO's budget process is a little bit different than a typical budget process. Our Finance Committee consists of all of our member district business managers, which includes Ron, all of our district admin reps, which includes Elizabeth Degree, and a board member, which was Janice this year. Actually, we have 2 board members that sit on our board. We have union representation and some of our administrators. So it's quite a large group, but it's a very productive group. And we actually start our budget process in January. Our goal is always to have our budget to our member districts so they know what their costs are for next year for NSSCO programs and services for when you build your budgets here in District 59. So it's quite an extensive process. You know, we take a snapshot back in January of what our enrollment will look like for the upcoming school year, and that does change. It was kind of a difficult year because of the pandemic, but we're already seeing an increase in our enrollment. When we're doing our planning for this year reflected a decrease of about 24 students. Some of our students aged out early because of the pandemic and went to the adult services and things like that, but we're seeing a bit of an increase right now. But because of that decrease, we also showed a decrease in our staffing for those programs for our students at the same time. Our overall NSSCO budget for this year is showing a decrease of 1.6% from last year to this year. And our tuition rates for our individual programs saw modest increases about 2.26 to 2.84%. So we're really pleased to be able to bring forward a good budget for our upcoming school year. The biggest impact going into fiscal year 22 for us is the impact of this pandemic on our finances. While many member districts got nice ESSER funds from the state, cooperatives did not. The first round, as our districts got anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million, we got $7,000. It's almost embarrassing to say that out loud. The second round, we got about $23,000. So all in all, we got about $30,000. But that's okay. We'll make it work, and we did. We pursue a lot of grants, foundation fundraising activities, and really good partnerships to keep things going. Some of the things we were able to do this year, we got a FEMA grant, which helped fund some of our COVID supplies, and we're actually writing for a second FEMA grant now because it kind of expanded its reach. We also got I'm trying to think, an NEA grant through the union that supported our staff in writing our re-engage plan. They paid for a lot of after-school hours for us. We got a No Kid Hungry grant to help feed our kids this summer. And for our programming, we got an Autism Speaks grant, an IAASE grant, and things like that. We got 3 small grants to support music therapy in our school. One thing we're really proud of is we started the year this year with the Lions Club of Arlington Heights grant, which was the final funding we needed to support our accessible playground at Minor School, which cost us about $500,000, but was funded entirely from grants and donations. So we're really super proud of that. We continue to focus on fiscal efficiency and responsibility throughout our whole budget process. We recently had the opportunity to look at restructuring some of our administration due to some administrative position changes, resulting in a decrease in our administrative FTE. Again, supporting our budget, but also meeting the needs of all of our programs. Our foundation is great. Our NSSEO Foundation, they continue to fundraise for NSSEO's programs. They provide mini grants to students. We wrote a grant for a wheelchair accessible vehicle that we got last year. We just had a garage sale on Saturday and raised $4,500 in one morning, so we were really excited about that. Just selling retired furniture and technology. It was great. I can't say enough about our partnerships too. Rich Lee Vans, our bus company through Cook, Illinois, delivered meals to our families for free last summer. We had our foundation and volunteers driving meals to families' houses who couldn't come and pick it up. Northwest Community Hospital has been a longstanding partner of ours, and they helped us vaccinate all our staff early on during the pandemic, so we're really grateful to them. As you can see, partnerships, fundraising, and grant writing continues to be a strong focus for us to help offset the costs of our programs and services. Our leadership is our strong advocates for students with disabilities. As I just told you about the terrible funding received through ESSER funds, Dr. Hackett is a strong advocate for students with disabilities throughout the state. She's spoken at State Board of Education meetings. She's had all sorts of, I'm going to turn it over to you because you're going to speak better about what you do.
Oh, gosh.
But before I move on, does anyone have any questions in particular about the NSSEO budget and District 59? I know you've all gotten copies of that.
I have one question. And the budget summary, it says with, on behalf, and without on behalf. What is the difference?
That's a great question. We can move to that next slide.
That one right there, perfect.
It's where our auditor has us report money. The on behalf is the on behalf TRS money that we have to pay on behalf. It's not the board contribution, it's that on behalf. And it flows through and out, and I don't really quite understand why we have to report it because it's not something we actually pay, but it's an obligation, I guess. So the true expenditures are the without the on behalf of what our budget is. It's this year $41 million. And I know there's districts that don't report it that way, so, but it's how our auditors have us report it. Most districts, and I don't think District 59 reports the on behalf as part of their budget.
No. Great
Thank you.
Great
Good
question.
Good catch.
One of the last things that we felt was really important this year in terms of partnerships is that we really wanted to move forward, that we really wanted to think about how can we look in the next couple of months and year to really navigate post-pandemic. We spent an awful lot of our time really studying the science and what to do and our ordering PPE and navigating all of that. So we facilitated something that we have called Positive Pathways, and it really is future focused on what do we really need to do? What do we need to do to help students, to help their families, to help our staff? And so we've facilitated Zoom meetings with leaders really across the state. And we also engaged ISB, because one of the things that we have learned sometimes the hard way is they're thinking about these things as priorities, and we're in the middle of reality like, those are really not that important to us. This is what's really important to us. So it's given us an opportunity to bridge that. We have influenced their state performance plan as it relates to special education by having them as a part of our meeting. The last time we had 4 of the top leadership in ISB in our positive pathways. And then we also had the opportunity to help say, here's what our priorities are across the state as it relates to students with special needs. So we have expanded that. We've had board members on that. Janice and Carol have been on that in our positive pathways, as well as a number of others. And we hope to continue that forward and really hope to really influence the kinds of things that the state will help us fund and also help put some steps in place to continue that work forward for students. The other piece is certainly something that we have mentioned before, big part of a unique part of a co-op. I think we're the only co-op with a Sunrise Lake Outdoor Education Center. It has been around since the beginning of NSSEO, and if you go ahead, Art, you can see a few of the pictures. We were recognizing both Ron and Dr. Fessler in our October Shining Stars, where we highlight, certainly they were highlighted for their partnerships. But Ron has been coming out with teams from Friendship for many, many years. And then when Art came, really expanded that. So there's been hundreds of students that have come to Sunrise to do team building, to do social emotional, to really work on positive culture. There are so many aspects of what you can do in experiential learning at Sunrise. So even with the pandemic, we had families out there in small cohorts experiencing that. They had their own designated times to come out to Sunrise throughout this past year. And festivals, Winter Wonderland and Harvest Fest and other kinds of things. But really, it's also been really impactful for students that have developed confidence and experiences through working with their teammates in lots of special ways. We also have included in here for you several of your stars from 59. We always invite, and I know Art has joined us for several of our shining stars. So we have a little one, Darrell from minor school, and he really worked a lot on his gross motor, and even in a remote situation made some great gains by working with therapists from NSSEO. One of our others is a student at Timber Ridge. There are a number of students from 59 at Timber Ridge, and this is a young man who's really showing his student leadership. He has really helped his classmates and really has taken a lead in that and developed his own voice in terms of that support as well. And then you can see, gosh, look at that guy and the finesse of that archery. I don't know exactly where that bow went, but the arrow went. But it's been a really fun experience. And there's Ron, obviously doing what he loves and what the students have really been experiencing. We know we have a lot of work to do. What we have learned are some valuable lessons through the pandemic of things that we need to change. So we are refining and aligning professional learning to our changing district priorities. So as you change in your focus in 59, so too do we in terms of how we can best support you. I mentioned the positive pathways going forward, inclusive practices. Mental health is a very, very significant focus for all of us, as well as SEL and equity, and customized training for ESP staff. We really think there's a great power in parent education and partnerships and networking with families, so that's a very important focus for us, and particularly after this really stressful, intense year, really reaching out and engaging with our families. And again, that professional learning for individualized education plans, IEPs, best practices, coaching, trauma responsive practices, and we've done that for staff, leaders, families, and delving into students as well as innovative service learning. I also want to take a minute to thank Dr. Fessler. I've had the good fortune of working with Art since he started, and we have traveled to DC several times, really have if you travel with our, you have to walk fast and talk fast, but I think we had like 8 appointments in one day. So we really did feel like we could make a difference with legislators, and it's something I think that the more you do it, the more you really start to see how you can be influential in that. And then, of course, the climbing the wall, that's our sunrise wall, so that's also a great experience. I really did feel for Karen because, you know, it was a race, and as you can see. I know that there's been a lot of recognition to Janice Krinsky this evening as well. I would also like to extend a note of thanks, and certainly a note to appreciate to this board really the opportunity to work with Janice Krinsky. She has put her heart and soul into her work here, clearly, but also to NSSEO. You know, the thing about a big heart is that it just expands with use, and I think Janice has a heart that just keeps growing. Her passion for this work it emulates in everything she does, but she has been a very big part of NSSEO for the last 9 years as well. So this is the end of her 4th year as president at NSSEO. And I think anytime I'd say there's something going on, Janice, she'd whip out her calendar and see how she could squeeze that in, from meeting with the state superintendent and parents to welcoming our new staff to certainly all of the board kinds of work that's very much part of what all of you do, volunteering. And in this case, our NSSEO board members volunteer twice. And Janice probably extends that in really everything that she does. So we are really appreciative of this board for Janice's influence, but for the connections that she has made and brought back to all of you as well. Mardell.
Before you were superintendent of NSSEO, Judy, Barbara Samaji was for years the
That's right.
representative on NSSEO, and I was her backup. But she was such a good representative, I think I only once had to come to a meeting for her. However, you did have back then, NSSEO did, special programs where board members could come and be guests.
Yes.
And we haven't done that in
We
years.
still
and I think
do.
that would benefit our board members. We wouldn't necessarily all have to come at once. If you had 1 or 2 different programs, we could take, you know, split it up or go different ways. But I think in order for us to really truly understand what NSSEO is all about, and we have no complaints, obviously, but to get a better appreciation for it, we have to come to a meeting
For sure.
occasionally, just once or twice, just in our.
Mardell, we would love to do that. We have offered program tours. We've had board days at NSSEO over the last number of years. In fact, we've had legislators hop on a bus and go around to our programs as well. And so we could set it up anytime any of you would like, and we certainly can. We have a number of new board members. We'll have 3 new board members on NSSEO, but any of you are welcome, and we can work around your schedule, knowing how challenging that is, and customize a program visit. We also always open up, I know Art has read and Janice has read to students. I think when you came out to a tour, you don't sit in the back, you engage with students. And so I think you were interviewed at Timber Ridge. We did some things to really make sure that you have a sense of what's happening. So that is a great idea, Mardell, and we'll continue
And
to
I don't
carry
think
that through.
necessarily we have to be there for the whole meeting.
No,
It doesn't have to
no.
be a speaker, but
Right.
something that shows us what the programs are
Sure,
all about.
absolutely.
Because we don't all know what the programs are
Well,
about.
we would love to have you. We're happy to follow up with that to make sure that you'll have an open invitation, but we will set up something special
Yeah,
for
let us know
59.
when there's something that we might be interested
Okay,
in. learn
we
from.
certainly will.
And out at Sunrise, too. If you ever get an opportunity to go out there, it's a little diamond in the rough. It's
You can go
beautiful.
paddle boating out there if you want, or fishing, or,
We
yep.
can- We've had school trips to Sunrise
We
for,
do.
for our other schools, because I've
We
been a
do.
parent
Yeah.
several
Oh, did you go
times
out?
with my kids
Okay.
there. And
Yeah.
we've gone out on the paddle boats.
District 59 is a big user, and not just your students with disabilities or special needs, but your general education students are frequent users of it.
You have hundreds of students that come out every year. We have, adults that come out. I think the oldest camper we've had was 85, and the youngest student is probably 3 that has had some kind of camp experience at Sunrise. But yes, Oh, fantastic.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I've been with two of my kids, and I'm hoping, I've got one more in the pipeline, and I'm hoping we can get things back to normal by
Yep.
the time they go to go, and I'm hoping I can
They're
spend
starting to
more time.
come. 59 has
We
already
already have a
started
big
that.
schedule for the fall, so.
And
Yep.
I just want to say one more thing. As I had a family member growing up who was severely disabled, and my sister, who's no longer with us. And I just want to say the work that you do for families and for people who are struggling in certain ways, and the support that you give to people is critically important, not just to the students, but to the families. And, you know, brothers and sisters may not at the moment be able to thank you because they're kids and are nervous, but thank you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to us.
And also, just to add to what, all the good things that have been said, we are very happy with the association we have with NSSEO
Awesome.
because it definitely takes care of some of our students who we couldn't handle.
Great. Well, thank you, Mardell. And we appreciate all of the kind comments, and we're happy to have you come out anytime. But we really, again, thank you for your time this evening and a very important transition evening.
Thank you as well. Thanks for coming.
All right.
Randall?
You want Ron speak to these discussion items?
Not yet, but in 1 second. So just a little bit of history and protocol for discussion for the new board members. Discussion is a broad topic. Typically, before we bring something to action before the board, it'll be on the discussion, which is sometimes misleading because there are a number of things that are just required or mandated by state to be passed on an annual basis. So a couple of these tonight, Ron will just say, you know, like the treasurer is one example that this is a required annual thing that the board has to appoint a treasurer. So again, our protocol, our practice has been to have it on discussion. Some things require discussion, others don't. It's just an FYI, and then it goes to action the following meeting. So our practice generally, and there are a few exceptions, but our practice generally is to have something as a discussion item or topic before it goes to board action. If that doesn't happen, there's generally a communication from the superintendent to the board explaining why there is a circumstance that something needs to be approved, yet we haven't had any action, and I might follow up with a phone call or conversation with board members. So with that, yes, Ron, please come to the table and begin. You don't have to bring your mic, they're supplied.
Thank you.
Grand entrance.
So, thank you so much. Still thinking about those 8 p.m. board meetings. Thanks, Robert. 7.1, discussion to adopt fiscal year. In placing our budget on public display. This is one of those things, like Dr. Fessler was saying, it's a formality. In June, we will be bringing forth a tentative budget, with the final being adopted on August 9th. 7.02, it's talking about the determination of serious safety hazards related to student transportation. These hazard spots are determined by the Illinois Department of Transportation. This year, with students being remote, 909 were affected, but the prior year was 1,634. In our routing system, hazardous areas are flagged and students are automatically assigned a bus stop, and they receive information on their stop, and it is reimbursed just like anything else in ISB.
So Ron, can you provide a little more background on this one? So public transportation is required, and there are exceptions where it's not required. Can you talk about that distance and how that is impacted, so there's some clarity around that?
Absolutely. So if you live under a mile and a half away from your home school, you are not required to have transportation. However, if there is a hazardous spot, such as maybe traffic or there's no sidewalk, Illinois Department of Transportation will designate that as a hazardous zone because they don't expect the child to go, let's say they're within even a half mile. In order to get around that, what they'll do is they'll measure it and say, okay, well, that's a mile and a half to us. So that's what they'll do.
So in those situations where it's a hazardous considered a hazardous area, will we actually create a bus stop for that group of students, or will they have to come to something a little closer to where we have a stop? Or how does that piece work?
We tend to make sure that there is a stop that is nearby for them.
Okay, and then related for families who don't meet any requirements for transportation, can you explain quickly to the new board members the opportunity to purchase transportation?
Correct. So the last meeting, I believe it was, we approved of the dollar amount, and people who live within that mile and a half have an opportunity to purchase transportation. There aren't too many families that take us up on it, but it is out there.
My only question here is more, and I think for the parents that live within a mile and a half in the hazard zone, how do we notify them that they are that they get the free bus?
It's just like any other situation where what we'll do is it's in Skyward, they get the alert, they know everybody is pre-assigned to a stop already.
Okay.
So that it's all done and taken care of.
Sure.
So they'll get transportation notice just like any other
Just like
student who qualifies would.
Yeah,
So they don't have to opt in to it? It's all-
No, correct. Yeah, they'll be assigned to a bus already.
And it's very precise, because I missed it by 1 block. My children missed it by 1 block, free transportation. So it's very precise.
7.03 is a discussion of food service contract renewal. So due to the pandemic, the state allows the district an emergency extension of the current contract. This isn't typical. So we will be able to renew a 5th time. Normally, it's only a renewal up to 4 years. The cost of the contract is approximately $1.8 million for the year. And just an FYI, since the pandemic, we have served approximately 639,000 meals with Organic Life. So we feel like it's a good partnership.
And then go ahead. Oh, no. So for the 5th year, it'll increase by the rate of CPI. And I don't have all the facts, but I thought I saw something that the USDA was giving out free meals. Yeah. How does that come into play with all this?
What it is it's just extending our contracts so that they will provide them within our district. So what we've been doing for this entire, since COVID, that is to be continued through the end of the 21-22 school year.
Okay.
That's unprecedented.
And that's for all students who want to take them, correct?
Correct.
So not just free and reduced, so we're
Right.
getting reimbursed for all students who take them.
Sure.
So I'm just thinking ahead to when we are renegotiating this contract. Like, I feel like obviously none of us, except for Mardell, was on the board when it first came around. But I know from conversations that there's been issues about like having a limited number of suppliers who can meet our needs. And I guess just thinking ahead to next year, do you anticipate that Organic Life will remain our primary option? Are we looking at other options? What is our projection?
We will have to mandatorily bid at that point, so it is going to be out to anybody. And as of right now, it's based on the lowest price for this type of bid through ISB, but there's a legislation that is currently out there that may change that. And it's a good possibility that will pass. So then it's not just going to be lowest price.
And Ron has been talking through this with the board subcommittee. So we've been kind of reviewing and working through this and watching this as we sense that this would be coming out. So we have been having conversations. We've been having other related conversations about other options, other opportunities too. And Randy and Mardell have been part of those conversations on the board. And Robert, I don't know if you've...
Yeah, I've been on some of those talks.
Okay.
So we've been discussing those options on the facilities committee.
Yeah, it's hard to remember if it's finance or facilities because they're
It's all
back to
blur.
back.
In Organic Life, we haven't had for all that long. We had other purveyors before that. Prior to Organic Life, yeah. This is, I think,
What's the proposed like legal change that they're talking about? Then? We don't do a lowest bidders. What are the changes then?
Proposed changes include quality, in terms of how fresh you want the food to be. You can kind of change it up a little bit, whereas the state pretty much gives you a template right now. And you gotta have that template approved. If you don't, you can't do anything. So it is pretty much boilerplate for everyone in this. You'll see all these food service vendors jump from district to district, and it's just all lowest price. Some people will lowball, some people won't. It's just numbers. But
So how do you evaluate quality then?
That's gonna be interesting.
Do we have a taste testing or?
I don't know if it happens, though, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, it's, because I mean, I don't mind paying for, more for good food, but I mean, what's the criteria?
Well, every vendor has a reputation, so a lot of that is done through reference checks. And then, word of mouth. Ron has a strong network of other business managers that are using different or various vendors. If you may recall at the last time that we went through this, and maybe not everyone was part of that board, we had a hard time getting vendors to bid on the contract, largely because they've got to satellite their food in, and that comes at an extra cost to those vendors. So, we had some discussions in facilities and finance about other options to perhaps address that, and even researching numbers and possibilities. So those are ongoing conversations. But it's no secret in terms of how people feel about the different vendors, and some have good experiences, some have bad. Even getting the feedback on our vendors, it's, in terms of the food quality, it depends on the person eating the food. Everyone has different tastes, but we've got, some really positive feedback, and we've got some that's not as solid.
Yeah, even as a board member, I've received comments from parents who actually see the food coming home, and it varies on the type of comment that we get as to the quality or what their kids are actually bringing home with them when they get to see it firsthand now.
We're actually working with Organic Life so that they're going to have committees that are going to be coming back. That's one of the biggest things that I wanted to do before, but with Zoom and the pandemic. And then they can have like student committees, parent committees, staff, and you'll be seeing that as long as things return to normal. The next one is
7.04.
Oh, that's me again. So that's the appointment of school treasurer. This is yearly. It's a standard procedure. Must be done with Illinois school code. It just makes the CSBO the school treasurer.
Actually, I think we originally saw Organic Life at their presentation at the Illinois Association of School Board Conventions, downtown Chicago, which is annual every time. And they had a booth, and they were presenting their stuff. And it looked so good, and I think that's how we actually first got them.
7.05. Right. This again is a yearly standard procedure for the school treasurer bond. It must be done with the school code. The treasurer must be bonded. 7.06, discussion to direct the treasurer to transfer interest earned in debt service fund to the ed fund for fiscal year 21. So this is allowed per school code. Investments get sent, and we invest in our money, we get interest off of it into the different funds, just to keep them funded, but it's good practice to move those funds around to make sure you put them in the most essential places. So for example, the 30 fund, which is the bond and interest fund, we're in a good place with it. But we'd like to move that money within the ed fund because that is our largest fund we need to spend from. 7.07 is more of the same, but we're transferring the interest from working cash to the operation and maintenance fund. This move is also allowed, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. Investments get sent to different accounts to keep them funded. So this is another one where working cash, our 70 fund, we feel pretty comfortable with at this given time. We've been spending a lot of money with ensuring that our buildings are prepared for COVID, and you can see the results, how great things have gone, as well as some of our construction projects do come out of the 20 funds, so we'd like to make sure that we do have money in there.
All right, 708.
We're good, 708.
Discussion of the student device, is that you or is that?
Hey, it's Ben.
Yeah, that's Ben, right? Ben's walking up here.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you, guys.
We got microphones up now.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
You might rethink that 8 o'clock start of the meeting.
There he is.
Can you hear me?
Sounds good, Ben.
All right, thanks. Well, it's good to see 4 of you from my camera view. Is about the the extent of what I can say. Thanks, Ross. I will say it was a little bit unsettling being carried around by Ross. Not something I was expecting this evening, but I think that it might be helpful for the student device refresh for me to give a quick little bit of background about the history of this piece. So back in 2014, our district started a full one-to-one student, kind of a one-to-one scenario with all of our students. When we did that in 2014, that was originally, we had come up with a plan that would be a 3-year refresh cycle. Through that process, we met as a technology committee and we explored a number of different devices, determined what would be best for our district and our students, and that was Chromebooks at the time. And then at the end of that first cycle in 2017, we used some of those devices for district needs, but we also recycled a large number of those student Chromebooks, and we received just a little bit over 68,000 for those devices. So we have continued a process of utilizing previous devices, but then also returning or recouping some of those dollars from the purchase by recycling. And we actually get paid to recycle those, which is a pretty great deal, for us. We certainly don't recoup the full cost, but it is nice to get some of the funding back at the end. And the reason I bring this up is because I think it's important as we think about our refresh now, the options that we will have for the devices that our students currently have. And I'll talk a little bit about that more in a little bit. So then in 2017, we were at our next refresh cycle. And at that point, the committee decided and determined that we would continue on with Chromebooks. So we purchased Chromebooks for grades 2nd through 8th. And then we purchased a Tab 10, it's like a Chromebook tablet. And essentially what that was, and the concept was, is you'd have a tablet that runs just like our Chromebook. So it runs the Chrome OS, it's just in a tablet form factor. And that device did not perform the way we expected, nor at all was it acceptable for the standards that we have as a district for the experience that students, staff, and families should have. So we are not including that at all as an option for this next round, or thinking about that at all as an option. So I do want to take a minute to really thank the IT team. Kathy, Eddie, Chris, Eddie's in the back. None of the other folks are here tonight, but Kathy, Eddie, Chris, Kevin, and the building techs did just a tremendous job over the last 4 years of keeping what was a 3-year refresh cycle, and we've turned that into a 4-year. And I think that needs to be acknowledged because these devices that we're using are a low-cost device, and that we could extend into 4 years, especially over the use we've had over this past year that none of us would have expected, the heavy use that the devices have really incurred. And when you think about where we would be without those devices this past year, it's pretty tremendous to think of how far that extended our learning, how far that extended the option to continue teaching and learning through the pandemic. So I also want to thank our staff. Our classroom staff were unbelievable in the way that they went. I know I mentioned this in a recent meeting, but the way our staff went from, a lot of them not having run a Zoom at all because they never really had to in that context of a classroom, to go from 0 to right now, we're all in this and we're all Zooming and we're all doing this. It was just, it's very inspiring to see how quickly and how hard people work to make that happen. And I am very proud of the team and very proud of our district for the way that we handled that and the way that our staff and the IT department was able to really make this continue and make it possible. So here we sit. So that's kind of the very quick history, but that's kind of the history of how we got to the place we're at right now. And so we sort of sit at the current refresh, talking about what devices we want to get again and we want to look at. We are planning to refresh all devices K through 8. This year it is a student refresh only. It's not a staff refresh. Next year is our scheduled staff refresh. But one thing to note is we are exploring the option of potentially offering staff a device and access to a device that the students are using. We have had that request in the past. So in the past, we had, in some cases too, we had Nexus 7 tablets, which were small 7-inch tablets that students and staff use along with the Chromebook. And staff asked, can we have access to a Chromebook as well so we can support students when they have issues in our classroom, or as we're creating tutorials or things like that, to help students know where to click, where to go. In the past, we weren't able to do that just from a funding perspective, but now with ESSER and ARP money, we do potentially have that as an option. That's not necessarily what we're presenting right now, but it is something that I do want us to think about as as a team. Is that something that we would want to present or to provide for our staff? I think it would be very helpful. But I want to just start that thought now as we work through this refresh, is that could be a piece of what we'd like to do. I do have up on the screen, what you're seeing there is that's an example of a past, one of the resolutions that we used previously. And it is structured a little bit unique in that right there, you see the elements. So you see the device and the cost and any essential connected service, or in this case, like a carrying case, any total cost for that device. You see that there with the most updated cost. And then if you scroll down, Dr. Fessler, a little bit farther, you see in the resolution, up a little bit, you see in the resolution that how we frame this is the final cost. I don't have a final cost in there because it's entirely dependent on enrollment. So we won't know what that final number is until we know how many students we have and how many we're providing for. So what I'd like to do again is follow this same practice, create and present the final numbers, and then again, those will be dependent on what our enrollment numbers are in the fall. We do have, and we are looking at both a Chromebook and an iPad. And I know we've had some questions about that. And I wanted to provide just an update. And again, to thank Eddie, he's done a tremendous amount of work on this, and he's done a lot of research and continues to research. We've been testing, we've been looking to see what's going to work in our environment, what's going to work well. And there are some realities that I think we need to look at that could potentially impact our decisions. So the Chromebook, we're looking at an updated version of what we had this past round. Obviously, a Chromebook going 4 years and doing as well as it has, it's a great device, and we're looking at what that would look like, but just the newest model of that. Right now, that total cost for that unit is $348, which is interesting because if you look at the resolution, the cost of the device itself, the previous version was more, just for the device. So that $348 is for the device plus a required Google license we have. That's a one-time paid Google license, and the carrying case. So that's about a cost of $2.104 million for our current enrollment right now. And I'm going to share some of these updated figures with you this week, so you'll have those. So I know that would be easy as you look through what those numbers are. So at $2.104 million for the Chromebook, then the iPad, which is a 10.2-inch screen, the Chromebook is an 11.6-inch screen. Those devices are, for a total cost, they're $513. Now that's a bit of a surprise since an iPad itself is $300 for the kind of student sort of education edition, as it were. But that's the device, also a carrying case that goes on it. The difference with a Chromebook and an iPad is the Chromebook has a lot of built-in bump protection. And I think that Eddie brought one with him, and he could kind of hold it up if you want to look at it later on. If he has it, you'll notice that they're kind of ruggedized. An iPad doesn't have any of that, built into it. So we need to provide some kind of a case around it. Plus a keyboard, and then the bundle that Apple has recommended for us includes Apple Care, which is a service for servicing the device. And we're exploring that to see if that's a cost we can pull out. That's about a $47 per device cost. And then we do have to buy a new system for app management. So right now, whenever we want to push out a new app or do any kind of management for the Chromebooks, we do that all through our Google admin. It's part of that licensing fee that we have with Google. If we were to move to iPads, we have to purchase a new app management solution that would allow us to do that. So that total cost is $513, all in for the device, which is $3.397 million at our current enrollment. So the difference between the two as it stands right now is about $1.293 million between the Chromebook and the iPad. And again, we're going to continue to try over the next month to sharpen those numbers and see how much we can get both of those devices down as much as possible. But it is important to notice that there is a pretty significant difference between the price. Eddie has also looked at, as I said, and researched, and some other items to think about is it's going to require a whole platform change. And I believe that's very possible. I just talked about how great our staff did over the past year. I believe our staff could accomplish this. The question is, are we at the institutional readiness for that right now? Are we at a point where we can take a whole platform transition into a new model? Does that make sense? I'm also hosting some upcoming sessions with staff to get more feedback. We've talked to a number of staff. Our techs have been talking to staff. I had a conversation with DEA, and we're having conversations across the board with all different audiences to make sure we're considering everything, because we want a device that's going to work for our students and obviously for our staff. And then as much as possible works for families, because these devices do go home in a lot of cases. And it's one of the great things about sending them home is they are utilized at home with families and support. So those are kind of the main points of consideration as we're talking about this current round of refresh. We are testing in 2 different buildings. We're testing the use of a Chromebook in primary classrooms at 2 different buildings, and we're going to get some feedback on that over the next week or 2. So my plan, and certainly, welcome questions and any feedback and input you might have about the process or thoughts that you have right now. But my hope would be over the next few weeks to to come through, get the feedback we need, and to be able to come to the June meeting with a proposal like you see on the screen that has the recommended scenario that we would like to do for purchase. We would then make that purchase, and supply lines right now, as you can imagine, are up in the air. There's just so many ups and downs with supplies and shipping and being able to get devices. There is a chance that, even if we had ordered a month ago, that we may not be able to get the devices in by the start of the school year. That's not a worry, because we can still allow students to use their current devices until that point at which we can make that transition. And, hopefully that would be really early in the fall. Obviously, ideally, it would be prior to the students. We could do that and get those devices set up prior to the students starting in the fall. But as it is now, we're allowing our students to take the devices home over the summer. And so we're going to need to have a swap out process anyway when they come in the fall. So, either way, we're covered, and it isn't going to hinder any of our learning in our classrooms. So that's the plan. I said a lot and just kind of trucked right through it. So any questions or thoughts or feedback? And it's only going to be the 4 of you that I can see directly in front of me. So.
Okay. Thanks, Ben. Question for you. Why do we do the staff refresh on a separate year? I would think, wouldn't we get more value if we're buying in more quantity?
No, because the staff device is a MacBook. It's a fuller laptop, so it's a totally different device. So quantity would depend on those. So since we're not getting the MacBook Airs or whatever the equivalent is of those laptops, we wouldn't get any additional discount for those.
Okay.
And we've tried to stagger it, given, also in the past budgets, because that's it can be a $700,000-800,000 refresh, depending on cost at the time and numbers of staff. And so we tried to stagger that just so it wasn't it already is, obviously, every 4 years. It's a larger, expenditure. And so we tried to spread that out over those 2 years as much as we could.
Sure, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 things, Ben. One, I'm in support of teachers getting a Chromebook, because having been in that position, trying to help them on something that I have no experience with,
Right.
because I use a different device, it would be really helpful to them, so that would be something I would be really supportive of. But I also, are you saying we're either going to do the tablet or the Chromebook? We're not doing both.
No, we're not doing both. It would be one or the other. And we're even still considering, looking down at grade level like K and 1. That's why we're doing the trial at first grade, because we have had a lot of good instances of success where, the primary students are using the Chromebook and they're using them very well. Because one of the things that the Chromebook does, I want to answer your question, make sure I'm very clear. No, it is not both. It is one or the other. We're only providing one device to the students. Now, the thing that the Chromebook does, and if Eddie still has that, he could be kind of the model back there. The Chromebook does flip all the way around on itself, and those of you who have seen those at home, you see how it does that. And that functions as a tablet. So you're basically getting the whole screen, and it just focuses you on the screen, and you can use it as a touchscreen tablet. And it is pretty amazing how many different ways you see our students, as you go through the buildings, how they arrange those. They'll tent them so they can just see the screen as they're watching them, or they'll have them, flipped the other way around so the keyboard is down and the screen is up. So it's a very, very versatile device, that current Chromebook that we have, which is why we're looking at it down in the primary, because we've had some teachers say our students have used the Chromebook very well, and they have the keyboard. And part of the reason the case that we're looking at right now for the iPads is more expensive is because the case connects to the iPad in a way. In a lot of cases, that's a Bluetooth connection, but Bluetooth is really finicky. And to try to have 25 kids and a couple of them have Bluetooth issues, and it can be sporadic. And so the best connection, there's a Smart Connect. And that's the device we're looking at, where it doesn't have to use any Bluetooth. It doesn't have to charge itself separately, because the Bluetooth keyboards, they need a different charging cord. So now you've got the device plus the keyboard trying to charge. That's a big pain in the classroom. So this other device we're looking at has that it actually charges off of the laptop, which is getting charged out of the cart. So that's why some of these pieces are just a little more costly, because there's no way the other items are going to work. Just logistically in a classroom, it's not going to happen.
But I'm wondering if these kids are going to go from elementary into the junior highs, why we don't just keep them on the same device, especially since they are kind of kid-proof. And kids are so smart. I mean, I look at my grandkids, how they can navigate these devices, and I'm like, I think we should start it early and be able to keep it going.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to make sure, that there's not anything we're not thinking of as the students, the primary students are interacting with them. I know my daughter's in second grade. In the last couple of years, I've been amazed at how well she can use a Chromebook. It just, as you said, they pick things up very, very quickly. So I want to make sure, though, that it is the right thing. I don't want to have any of us make that decision without making sure that staff have a chance to experience it and say, hang on, this is this just isn't going to work for whatever reason. So it's part of why I want to make sure, and don't say tonight, like this option A, option B, whatever. There's a few more things we need to test and just ensure that this is the right thing, what we come back with in June. And I will be providing ongoing updates to everyone as any other information comes through, any updates. I want to make sure that you don't feel like you didn't know what you needed to know between now and that June meeting.
So Ben, a couple of additional questions. You're considering the iPad for the K1, is that right? As an alternative to what used to be like the Acer tablets that were distinct to K1?
Yes, so the tablets are, again, those Acer tablets are not even a discussion. So it's in that case, it's either an iPad or a Chromebook, which is kind of what we're looking at. We were even looking at, and still are looking at it, what would it look like even, so what if we went K8 with an iPad? And again, we've found some things through that research that Eddie has done and continues to do that were pieces that were awareness pieces. So those figures I was giving you, here's the comparison, that was a K8 comparison, just so everyone's aware of that. But yes, the K1 would be looking at a tablet like the iPad or a Chromebook.
And so I guess a follow-up question to that is, are there any alternative K1 tablets besides the iPad that we would consider?
Yeah, I've looked, and unfortunately, nothing that has management like we need. So it was a very big disappointment when the Chromebook tablet didn't work, because the promise of that was, as I stated, was supposed to be, here you have a tablet that's going to function just like a Chromebook, but it's in a tablet, so it's lighter and smaller and all those pieces. And I think that there were just some challenges between the manufacturers, and we had the vice president of Acer, out in our district. They replaced our entire Tab 10 fleet, all of them. Early on, they had their highest engineers. They had all of those teams out working with us, and they just couldn't make it work. And I think that that's indicated in the fact that they dropped the Tab 10 actually from their line. They're not even producing it anymore. And no one has come out with a Google Chromebook tablet. Google even did it themselves for a short while, and then they stopped production of their own device. So whatever it is about the tablet form factor and the Chrome OS, it's just not there right now, so they've stopped. So the other items are like a Galaxy tablet or Galaxy Tab or some of those kind of tablets, but unfortunately they don't have management like what we would need to make sure we have student accounts and that they're restricted where we need them to be restricted, and that we can push out apps where we need to students and pieces like that.
Yeah, I
So
guess
it is challenging, unfortunately.
Understood. No, I appreciate the differentiation, because having, and it sounds like maybe Joseph too, experienced the Acer tablets with the K1. So I feel like, from just speaking up from personal experience as a parent, that I found the Chromebooks to be an exceptional device that both my kids were able to use, like a kindergartner as well as, a upper elementary student. I do want to give huge kudos to your staff, because I feel like the biggest issue we personally encountered with the Chromebook was the hinge issue, because it does flip. Like, sometimes the hinges will go, but your team, it's like we pulled up, we swapped it out, we drove through. Awesome. It was like seamless, and we were back on and functioning again. So my opinion is, for continuity, like for our teachers, for our platforms, for the excellent cost, I'd love to see us go Chromebooks across the board. And like Patty, I would love to see any teacher who wants one have access to one. There may be some who say, I don't need it, but teachers who are interested, to give them that option. But frankly, I've been thrilled at like how well functioning of a device the Chromebook is, how sturdy it is. So, one opinion for you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, no, that's helpful. Thank you. No, I appreciate it, because I know, again, many of you are parents who have experienced this firsthand in your homes, and I know you learn a lot. You learn a lot when you're supporting, your own children at home with remote learning. Over this past year, we dealt with it in our house. There's just nothing more frustrating when they can't do something or it isn't working, the device isn't working, and I'm very sorry for. And we've worked so hard, to repair essentially what happened with the Tab 10s, because, I continued to share with Google and Acer that in a lot of ways this has stepped us back when we were making good progress forward. And that device, again, I can't express how disappointed that I was and the experience that we had with that device, and just how unacceptable that was. So I'm sorry you had to experience it, and those of you who are there had to experience it. We will not at all be considering that.
Another
device.
thing I think we must consider with all the other suggestions is, what is our repair bill going to look like with the new rollout, or any different changes in the rollout that we make? Because when I've looked at the repair bills for the student computers and whatever, it's been quite high. So is there anything we can do to bring down the repair costs?
Yeah, and part of that's reflected in the fact that all of our devices are now at home all the time. And so, now as students are getting back in the classrooms, but over this past year, those devices were used and they stayed home over the summer. And so those repair bills, as we would expect when the devices are home full time, are going to incur a little bit more damage. And actually, I was just looking over, and I'll pull the report and send it to you. But over the last 3 years, the first 2 years of their Chromebooks, we didn't have any, we incurred no costs, because of our experience with previous devices. Acer said, we'll give you a 2-year a full accidental warranty. So our district paid nothing the first 2 years we had these devices. And then we also have our student device protection plan. Plus, in some cases we do when children are negligent, we will charge the families for those repairs. And we didn't really do that this past year, just given the pandemic and given what was happening. But I can tell you that our repair costs the past few years have really been better than they've ever been outside of this past year in the pandemic. So that's part of what with the iPads, we're looking at the Apple Care, because we know what the program is with Acer, because Kevin runs all of those repairs. So we do save a lot of money by having Kevin do a lot of repairs in-house as well. And he's very good at that. But with the Apple Care, that's a possibility. We're still exploring that option of what that would look like in the event that we were going to go with the iPad.
Hey Ben, this is Robert. Do we buy these directly from Google, for instance, for the Chromebooks, or are we going through a third party?
We go through CDW is our vendor because unlike Apple that manufactures and makes their own device and basically owns their whole process, Google doesn't do that with their devices. So they'll license their OS, but the manufacturers all make their own device their own way.
Yeah.
So we're really buying from Acer through CDW.
Right. Okay.
And all of those resellers, or I say all those manufacturers at bulk at the way we're buying them require you to go through some vendor like CDW or other some vendor like that that we go through.
And that Google license, is that an annual license fee that we would have?
No, it's a one-time. So that's a one-time. You pay it when you get the Chromebook, and then that's it.
Okay.
Hey, Ben, I got a couple of questions. One thing, first of all, one thing you won't notice on this is that we do not go out for bid on this. This is continuing, it's one of those things that exempt from bidding, but Ben is negotiating with people, and this is one of those things that we're allowed to negotiate. I want to make sure that point is made. The next one is, I noticed we're talking about cases for just 3 through 8. With our kids, all our kids taking these, devices home, shouldn't we be able to get cases for every one of them?
That's the current the price I gave you, the 2.104 million. That's assuming cases for all those devices. Yes, because that's a big question that we'll discuss is what practices, and this is going to be I'm very interested in seeing over this next year what has changed fundamentally based on what has happened over this past year. And one of those could be that we're realizing the usage of these devices, and we may want to say K through 8 take their devices home, or we may say 2 through 8, or that's a conversation I think we have plus with our teachers, because when our teachers to say yes, I want my kids to have that option, or we may say K1 we don't want them taking them home, or so that could also impact the case as well. But we are assuming the purchase of a case with those dollars. Yes.
Okay, and then the follow-up question is, I know you mentioned a 2-year warranty. We're going to have that same 2-year warranty again with.
I don't know if they'll offer it this time. It's something that we're discussing with them, and I don't know that they're, given where our experience was last time, I would love to continue to press on that, and I will. But I don't know if that's something we're going to get. Our prices have come down. We've been pretty aggressive with that, and we've been able to have them lower costs. And the way I think of it, I kind of prefer to pay less from the device at the beginning than pay for a warranty that we know we're not going to use on all of our devices across the devices. Because when you pay for a warranty, in a lot of cases, there's a reason why they offer it, because they're betting, it's a gamble for them, they're betting that you're not going to use the warranty to its fullest extent. So, for us, if we're going to have to pay anything for that, I'd rather see them bring our price down than do that. But because even with that, even when they offer the free warranty, sometimes I feel like they'll find ways to get that somewhere. So yeah, I'm going to push for that, but I'm also trying to make sure that we get that cost down as low as possible for the purchase cost, if that makes sense.
So then when it comes to repairs, if we don't get that warranty, then that's a concern of mine, because I've seen how kids can, even if they are like really well constructed, I've seen them get their devices beat the heck out of them. So
yeah, and that's why we have we have a couple of mechanisms in place to help us with that. So the student protection plan that parents buy into, that's essentially like this isn't exactly right, and Ron will correct me because the term is wrong, but it's somewhat like self-insurance to some degree, where we collect those funds and then we use those funds to repair the devices. And over the last, gosh, I don't know, 7 years, over the full term of a device, it has really significantly reduced, and we've paid very little over the full course of those multi-years. So when that benefits parents, because if their students, damage the device, they're only paying $25 a year to essentially have insurance for the device. We also, if a student, like let's say a student in your classroom was to throw that down, and you caught them and you say, you know what, that's it. That was obviously negligent behavior. We do charge the family in those events. If they're going to stomp on someone's Chromebook in the classroom, we charge, the student who's doing the stomping. And so we are recouping some of those costs, that happen. So it's not like we're getting this just astronomical repair bill at the end of the year. So yes, but we do try to mitigate that as much as possible.
And we do repair some in-house too, to avoid those fees as well too, the repair costs.
What was that, Randy? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We do a lot of repairs in-house that we can do in-house, we do in-house.
Yes.
I turned mine off now. No, we do in-house repairs as well too, to help save money.
Yes.
Yeah, we do a lot of them, yeah. And that will
Yes, so
save us-
Kevin is the person who does those, and he's, very, very good at what he does, and he repairs a lot from Wi-Fi cards to displays to all kinds of parts on there, power sources, all of that. So.
What he can fix, so they have to go out.
What was that, Mardell? I'm sorry, I couldn't
I said
hear.
some of them are beyond what Kevin can fix, so they have to go out.
Yeah, some of those pieces do have to go about to Acer, and again, or if they went to Apple, if it was an iPad, yes, there are some pieces that they just have to repair on their end. And again, then whatever that cost is, if it's $110 to replace a Wi-Fi card, then we would send that out to Acer, and that's just the cost of what we would charge the family for the repair. Again, if it was a negligent case, if it wasn't and it was just we're in year 3 or 4 and that part has failed and we pay for it, then that's what we do as part of our overall plan.
So how quickly is it, Ben, this is Randy again, how quickly is the turnaround time if we have to send it out for repair? And do we have, we do keep spare devices?
Yeah, and what's great about a Chromebook is if I were to give you a spare device, you log in with your Chrome credentials and it comes just like, it basically shows up just like your past device. It's your background, all your stuff. So it's you don't know the difference between the replacement that you got or the one that you had, other than if you carved your name in it or something, but you wouldn't see any of those things. It would basically be your same experience. And then we take the one for repair. We still get them back pretty quickly, but that turnaround time is pretty quick. And again, for students, it's an immediate, here you go. And then, unless sometimes it's a discipline issue, and then they'll hold them for a little bit of time so the kid is, without and having to use some of the computers in the back of the classroom and some of those pieces, so.
Hey, Ben, well, one last question. I always want to make sure that we give the students everything that they need. Throughout the year, do parents ask for headphones? Do they ask for other accessories? Do they ask if this stuff is available for their kids with the technology that we give them?
Do parents ask if those things are available?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Right, yep.
In some cases, yes, and in some places, and we're working on this, actually, as an SLT, we've been working on this on the supply list, and what people need and don't need to bring in. But that's a great point for ways that we want to continue supporting, and especially with the ESSER and the ARP money, we're trying to find ways that is the greatest need or areas that are the greatest need. And so that would be a great idea to be able to provide any of those, the ancillary items that that aren't part of the core device that we'd be able to offer. Even my daughter uses this, she's got this, little flower mouse here that she uses in her Chromebook a lot of times. And so if a kid just feels like they need an external mouse, they can't have this flower one, but they could have, one that we would provide them. So, that is a really great suggestion that we could put, create a list of that and be able to provide those for the families who need them.
Yeah, because ultimately there's a lot of kids that will have, items or accessories that others don't. And it makes their learning experience a lot different than those that don't, So it's just kind of seeing what else is out there.
And some of those items, we don't want someone sharing these, putting these in your ears, and now Courtney's putting these in her ears, and that's just gross. So, in some cases, you don't want to have those things. You want to have individual, supporting devices. So yes, absolutely. It's a great suggestion. So thank you for it.
At the school store, and John, maybe you could back me up on this. Our school store, we would have headsets. Oh, sorry. God bless it. We would have headsets for like $2 that would work with the Chromebook. Is that those are still available, John? Do you know? Oh, when we used to have a school store, but it was like they were very inexpensive. So it's something that if we could get them in bulk for the district, and if parents wanted them, $2, I think would be a reasonable, to be able to support their device.
Absolutely.
And then, Ben, can I ask 2 questions?
Yeah.
This is Joe. First one is, what do the high schools use in our area through 14?
So the high schools use the iPads, and we've had conversations with them because we obviously don't want to have our students have a situation where they're going to high school and feeling like they're unprepared or that they're not able to succeed. And our high schools have continued to tell us that our students are very well prepared because they're adaptable, which I think is really important as well. Because when they leave high school and go to college, the college may offer an iPad, or they may offer a MacBook, or they may offer a Chromebook. So that idea of adaptability, which is really important. So we do continue to have regular conversations to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing and kids are coming in.
And I'm not saying we should base our decision on what this high school is doing. I was just curious more than anything. And then when our students end 8th grade, they immediately turn in their devices, or are they going to keep them over the summer? When does the high school give them their devices? Do they have a summer where they don't have a device?
So there is a gap. We collect them at the end of the school year because to try to collect them after is really challenging. And also because when we're not part of a purchase year, that 8th grade device then goes back down and seeds the elementary. We actually just updated that recently, so I may have said that wrong, and Eddie will correct me in a text shortly. But we use those 8th grade devices, otherwhere. So if we were to let those go, it would be, in a lot of cases, it's challenging to get those back, I know, unfortunately. Yeah. Now, the high school is good about setting up their orientation sessions and those pieces with the freshmen. But there is a time when over the summer when those students don't have a device. Now they also, in a lot of cases, will give the students access because they'll be using the devices for some summer learning. But those 8th grade students aren't necessarily using all of our summer learning at that time. And the high school then, if the students are getting involved in the high school learning, the high school will then do a process to set them up for what they need for those classes.
Okay. And then I would like to just echo what Courtney said. The Chromebooks are great. I mean, they're really rugged. The keyboards are really nice for touch typing and the students learning keyboarding skills, and they're infinitely better than the tablets. And they're really rugged. I know my children beat them up, and in the couple of times we've had to do a replacement, it was drive up to the school, drop off one, pick up one. So there's always a spare. There's 0 turnaround time for repairs.
Yeah.
So I really like
That's
the Chromebook,
great.
and I would like to say we should probably price in devices for the teachers as part of this estimate. Just because as a teacher, I don't want to have my students have something that I don't have access to, and I can't do a demonstration on it. It's just not something you want to deal with. And I also do like the Chromebooks because we don't have to suddenly change environments partway through this upcoming year. Right?
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, very, very good to see you back with us, Ben.
Thank you, Mardell. I appreciate it. It's great to be back. That's for sure. I mean, sort of back in a way, so.
All right,
Good to see you, Ben.
yeah, all right,
Thank-
so,
thank you.
Ross?
thank you, Ben. Since I would like to kind of make a quick change in the agenda, I would like to go to action item 8.04. Dr. Hackett has been here patiently waiting for our vote on the NSCO, and I would like her to get a chance to get home quickly and do stuff, so I'd like to make move to make an action item for 8.04 for the budget. Would someone like to make the motion?
I will make the motion. Be it resolved that on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education agrees to participate in the programs and activities of the Northwest Suburban Special Education Organization during the fiscal year 2021-22, approves of the fiscal year 21-22 budget for this organization as presented by the NSSEO Governing Board, and agrees to pay the district's pro rata share of the organization's budgeted revenues.
I'll second it.
And just for clarification, on these action items, the new board members can also vote on these action items.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can vote or they can abstain if they're not comfortable voting.
You are a member now.
Where was I even? I believe I'm at Sager?
That's me. Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Patilli, aye. And Reed.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Thank you, have a
Have a
great
good night.
evening.
Get some dinner.
Aren't you glad you didn't have to come at 6 o'clock?
Hi, Judy.
Good thinking.
Hi, Maureen.
Sorry, Maureen, I skipped you.
No, that's okay, no problem. Just want to say, sure, now you start the meetings at 6 o'clock. So my agenda item, discussion item, is kind of like that, in that we're setting the stage. We don't have a resolution right now for this, but I just wanted to update you a little bit on the junior high math resources discussion. You'll recall that from last month, we were going to visit the topic with junior high teams, and so we had a PLT session with the junior high math teachers last week. So I want to share a little bit of an update and some of our next steps. So you don't see a resolution, but I wouldn't be surprised if the next meeting or two, if we were ready for something like that or not. I'll kind of explain why. First, I want to just do a little bit of history since we have new members as well. So this process goes back to the curriculum committees that were formed 2 years ago. It was April of 2019. And when we broke up into subcommittees, the junior high math subcommittee identified some short-term steps they wanted to take, like shoring up their learning targets, looking at the scope and sequences. Those were kind of their short-term actions. But their preference was that we first work on the elementary core resource and then turn to the junior high for core resource at that time. So we have done those action steps, and now that Is that better? Okay, thank you. Now that we have made the recommendation and adoption for the elementary, we wanted to turn our attention back to junior high. So we thought, after sharing the IM resource with you last time, which does go all the way through high school, we felt that it would make sense to take a look at that. You know, does that make sense for our junior high to have that K-8 resource? And we felt like there was value to at least consider it, propose it, see if that, you know, a K-8 resource would really meet our needs for a couple of reasons. One of those is the strategic plan that really talks about our curriculum clarity and also equity. And so we really feel that a common resource for junior high, you know, would be helpful. Currently, the teachers are teaching to the learning targets. They have access to Open Up resource, a resource called Open Up, or their learning experiences.
So there is more flexibility and discretion for teachers to, as they're teaching to the targets and assessing the targets, use one of those resources. But we feel like going forward, it's going to be even more important to have those equitable experiences, to have resources that are differentiated. And so we felt like we wanted to look at illustrative math, share that information with the junior high teachers. The other piece that would have for K-8 is a common lesson structure, routine, instructional practices that kids would learn in the elementary school. Obviously, those practices change a little bit as we get to junior high, but students would already have those practices. So that was another piece of our thinking in sharing that. Open up and learning experiences don't have the same level of access to differentiated resources as IM does, which was something that we really do feel is more needed now than ever. And IM also has, besides having access to different grade level materials, they have adaptation packs for each unit that support that unfinished learning. So we had some pretty good reasons why we thought, let's just share this. Let's see what the junior high teachers think. And they were in agreement on a common math. This is a good time for us to look at having a common math resource for our students' sake. So we shared that with them and really looked at potentially for a common resource, we could consider Open Up as a common resource. Currently, it's not implemented in every classroom, or every teacher doesn't use that, or illustrative math, knowing that those two resources really have more robust access to lower grade level materials, upper grade level materials. Open Up is something that truly is open. It's an open resource. And so staff who have been using it, it's not a resource that we've as a district said this is going to be our core resource, and we haven't supported it as such, but it is an option to do that. So we were looking at, we introduced those to staff at the PLT, asked, which does it make sense to move forward with? And they gave their input, which I shared that exit slip. They were in favor of moving forward. However, there were some great questions, comments on their exit slips as well. So we felt that we wanted to really pause, make sure we address those questions, make sure the teachers feel comfortable with the path we're on, and they don't feel like this is just being done to them. Okay, here we go. We're going to have this. A couple questions that came up, honestly, were, well, can we look at resources too? Because they really wouldn't have had that process. So we're going to go back to the teachers. We're going to address the questions that they have. We're getting ready to share that this week. But we want to make sure we address their questions. The other one that came up was, how long would we commit to this resource? And really from two different angles. We had some staff saying, we always are changing. It'd be nice to get some traction with a single path and that we can stick with it. Whereas others said, oh, but can we have a more short-term commitment to this because, what if as we're evaluating, we see things we don't like? So we kind of had both viewpoints expressed in the exit slip. So those are things we want to dig a little deeper on and really make sure, ask staff, get some more input from them. Is this really the direction they want to go? They have had access to the demo site now, so they're able to get on, take a look at the workbooks. They asked a lot about, would we have the paper version, the digital version, and the print version like the elementary? So we want to really get some more information from them. And like we did with the elementary, allow them to really have voice in the next steps. So we may be back here next time saying, we did some more work with the staff, and yes, this is the way we want to go forward. Or we might come back and say, we're going to need a little bit longer because the team really wants to take a look for themselves. So we've let staff really have great voice in this process. Going back to the curriculum committees a couple of years ago, we don't want to sidestep that now. And if they do want to, because while there's an urgency, we don't want to rush. So if it does seem like it makes sense and everyone says, hey, the elementary teachers found this awesome resource, let's take a look and it works for us, great. But we don't want that to feel like their only option. So that's kind of where we are now. So we might be back with that actual resolution linked on there next time, or at least an update throughout the process.
Did you find that the comments from the 3 different junior highs were all similar or different?
I don't think it was specific to the school, honestly, Mardell. I mean, we also talked about the instructional time. We know that that's a situation now where one school has more instructional time for math than the others. But as you know from the last meeting, we are looking at expanding our FTE for math so that we can have an equitable amount of instructional time at all 3 schools and the same course sequence. We've had some variations in that. One school maybe does it just a little bit different than another school, and we really want to get those all aligned for next year.
So same question, but by the placement tracks. Were there different opinions for teachers who are teaching the integrative math versus the core versus the transitional pre-algebra versus the pre-algebra? Was there a preference among them?
The questions were more, do they have that resource? Because that is not typical to have this kindergarten through high school level courses. So they want to take a closer look at it. There were a lot of questions about what does it have? What do they have in the way of advanced course curricula? So they were interested in that.
So do we have a sense of adoption of Open Up amongst the different levels? So Open Up is essentially the same group, right?
It is.
But the Learn Zillion, the illustrative math is all the resources, the teacher training, that sort of stuff that goes along with it.
And it's a little bit different version. So Open Up was the 1.0 version of illustrative math, but that bare bones, kind of when you get that base model car, it has the engine and the seats, and that's about it, all the way up to the deluxe. So yes, Open Up is really an illustrative math-based resource.
Right, and so my question is, we've had access to Open Up for teachers for several years. How many teachers have actually decided to use Open Up as their primary resource in the classroom?
I honestly don't have a number.
And I think that's probably a survey.
Yeah.
That as part of going back to the teachers, I'd
Sure.
be curious to know that, especially when it comes to the different levels. And then just because I'm not sure if you didn't adopt Open Up in your classroom, why suddenly illustrative math is something that would click for you. And so are we offering the possibility of piloting something else, or?
Well, that's what I think we want to ask them. So the way we posed it in the PLT was, expressing the need that we need a common resource at this time, with our strategic plan goals coming up about equity and curriculum clarity, this is a good time to do that. So that was the key piece, but then really getting their input on, should that be Open Up or should that be illustrative math, leading to the question, could it be something else? Can we look at other things? And so that's where we're going to go back and determine if there's a group of, if there's a group of the teachers that say, hey, can we look at some other things? We could facilitate that. We would want to look at, the pros and cons of the timing, because that does take time. Although with the illustrative math, we were able to really, with a very rigid schedule, it was 2 to 3 months that we did that process. So I think that's why we want to include that when we go back to staff, asking them if they are comfortable as is with illustrative math, or if they'd like to look at other resources to compare it to.
Again, I'm not saying necessarily that illustrative math isn't going to be the choice for a large group of staff, like the core group possibly. But my other questions were sort of when you get to the higher tracks, you're really doing high school level classes. What curriculums do our local high schools use, or the high schools we feed into?
They're kind of transitioning. I think the one that they are using now is, I did locate the name. I want to say something with big in the title.
Yeah, I think, and it's fine. Again, I don't think this is like something you
They
expect you to have at
just
10 o'clock at night.
they just adopted that also. There's big concepts or big math or something. She did say, I spoke with Mary Kemp from District 214. We have a lot of interactions between our district and the high school, especially related to math. And she did share that they adopted it, but their implementation this year obviously has been, impacted by COVID.
Right. And then so the elementary illustrative math is a new program, essentially, right? But this one isn't. So there must be districts in Illinois that use the 6 through 8 illustrative math, and then I believe the high school version came out after that shortly, right? So have we talked to any of the other districts of what they see as the gaps in illustrative math? What do they use as a secondary resource for remediative students, right? Because for the elementary, we have illustrative math, but then we have bridges interventions or some, we have this secondary resource. Are we anticipating something like that at the junior high level?
Yeah, I would think so. Right now, the junior highs for their math interventions use different things. They don't have a common, like it's bridges. So I think that's also kind of on the to-do list to take a look at. And it could be for the advanced courses as well. Maybe we find that IM works great for junior high, for the core classes, but the advanced classes, it doesn't get such favorable reviews. So you're right. It always is a combination of resources along with that framework that we showed you for elementary. We would want to do the same thing for junior high, because it's not just the resource, it's how we use that resource. And as a district, that really is critical. So we would want to take the next step of really identifying all the pieces of that math curriculum framework for junior high as well.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I'm getting at, right? You have your core resource, but that's not the singular thing that covers everything a teacher needs to do in a classroom, right? Like if I have my textbook, I have my textbook, but I also have examples that I bring in. There's labs I do, that sort of stuff that is not in the textbook, and I want to sort of think ahead of time what are the gaps that are in illustrative math and what are ways of filling those ahead of time, or are there secondary resources we need?
Yeah.
And I guess just that, because Joe had a lot of great questions, but one of them, have you gotten feedback from any other districts who are using IM at the junior high level?
Not at the junior high. We did at the elementary, and so actually right now I think after the PLT, we reached out to get districts that are using it junior high to reach out to them. So that, because our focus prior was on elementary districts who are piloting.
And the junior high version has a longer track record because it's been out for several years as opposed to the elementary version.
Yeah, so that is also a next step. And that was what the teachers asked about too. I mean, great question about let's talk to some districts. And I know our teachers have also been reaching out to their networks to find out more about that as well. So that's why we wanted to just give this, we don't want to rush, give it a little bit of time to, even after the PLT, that was a lot of information for them to then digest and talk about a little bit further. So we're going to take those next steps, but just not make it a big rush.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to note for the upper level, I don't want to use the incorrect term, right? The higher placement level, illustrative math does have an accelerated version, but it's a separate program, but somehow it's included. I didn't get the details.
It is. So they have, what he's referring to is they have what's called an accelerated version. It's, let's say you want a student to do pre-algebra, but you want that in a kind of a more compacted version. So they have versions that are more compacted. Maybe you want to get through that curriculum in a shorter time than it normally would. So that is an option that we are looking at. Right now we're finalizing what will that course sequence be? What are the options for 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade? Actually, we'll really start to move more to course. So if a student's taking algebra, they might be a 7th grader, they might be an 8th grader, they could be enrolled in an algebra course. So it'll kind of start with that 6th grade math and potentially pre-algebra for those that are in the more advanced area. And then we'll kind of go to courses after that, pre-algebra, algebra. Some students even take geometry, which is
high school level along, so some students do take that if that's what's warranted for them. And they do get high school credit for that now. So that was a change in the policy a couple of years ago that District 214 enacted. So our students do get actual high school credit if they take a high school level course.
And they have to, one of our teachers has to be certified to.
Correct.
To do that, right?
Yes, has to be a certified teacher. And it depends from year to year, the number of students and where they are, whether we offer it in the school, whether the course is needed that year, or whether the students take it potentially through the high school. We have a couple of students that are taking geometry through Rolling Meadows High School this year.
In the past, when we had the I-Ready, when she brought the I-Ready to us, we had committee members come and speak to us. Do you think that we should perhaps have one or two people from each of the 3 junior highs come to one of our meetings so we can ask questions of them personally, like we did with the I-Ready? I think that might not be
Sure,
bad.
and it might be more appropriate when we have an actual recommendation, but.
Yeah. Well, I don't know at what point,
Yeah.
but I think, because Joe's had a lot of good questions
Mhm.
here, and it might have been easier to ask it right of the teachers.
Yeah, I actually I have more that are more like for my information, so I would like to meet at some
Yes,
point.
absolutely.
'Cause I'm just curious, like, how big is our core group of students? Like, what's the percentage of students who are in that core?
It's a very small percentage, or that are in the core
That
or
are
the
in the core,
advanced?
the core, yeah.
The majority of students are in the core. The advanced, a little bit more, the double advanced students, so those students that are taking geometry as 8th graders, that's a very small fraction of students. That's.
Yeah, and that may be a group that's a different resource or something that may have specific needs. And you may also have specific needs at the other end as well, where you've got the integrative math may want,
Yeah, I think.
teachers may want additional resources in it as well.
True, and I think, your point about 214, it might make sense for those high school level courses to take a look at what they're using with their high school level courses.
And then just one last thing, for our diagnostics and assessment, we're at the junior high level, do we use iReady?
We do. We use iReady, and that was another question that came up
Does it sync up,
with the
sort of,
teachers. Yeah, and just trying to see, and that's part of like how the assessments that we do will be part of that curriculum framework document. So how often, which assessments, where are they from? That's where really the iReady and the core resource kind of are integrated. We need to do a careful crosswalk of those to see that, but that was a big question the teachers had as well. But this year we have been using iReady with junior high, in particular because of the diagnostic features and the impact of the pandemic. That was something we ended up implementing this year as well.
And I had one more silly question.
Sure.
If you wanted to, if we had a course, say like not the pre-algebra, the one translational pre-algebra, I forget what it was called, the middle one, they start like halfway through the 6th grade curriculum. Is it possible to buy half a year of the books for illustrative math? That would be a question to think
Well, the
of.
books are by unit, so.
Right, so, but I think, because the units are chopped up, could I like say, oh, we want to start the last 8 units of 6th grade, the first 10 units of 7th grade, and because they're already divided up, figure out a way to do that.
Into the course, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, I mean, I would think with illustrative math, that would be feasible, just because they do go by unit.
Right.
So if that
That's-
made sense, that is something I think is
'Cause
helpful.
I was just looking at our course structure and trying to map the illustrative math onto each class. And it
Yeah,
was
and I
kinda
think the
tricky.
one that I think the one that you were looking at was one that was one of those that was unique to that school, and now we're kind of bringing them all 3 together.
And again, I would like to see all the board members see what are these courses, what do they look like, how many
Yeah.
students are at each level?
Sure.
Just because I think it's the sort of information we should really have to get a sense of how the curriculum, it's not a single thing. It's
Yeah,
a
well, I
framework, and
think-
it doesn't, yeah.
I think right now, they're still at the initial planning.
Right.
So I think give the team some time to get together and come back with, not a resolution, but more of a proposition of what's going to happen, then we can have some more discussions at that
Right,
point.
and in the meantime, give us some of that information, because I think we should also sort of familiarize ourselves with where they're going before they suddenly get there.
Yeah, and I will be happy to continue in the Friday update
Yes.
to share, results, input, resources like this for you to see so that it's not a, all big reveal the next time. I'd be happy to do that. Even some of the pieces that might be background, I can share in this week's update.
Perfect.
In the draft sequence, I think it's in a place too where it's still a draft, we're still tweaking, but I can certainly share that with you on Friday. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Maureen.
How many
All right.
more meetings are we going to have you? Good.
So thank you, Maureen. Now we're under action items for the day, for the evening. Not day, it's evening. The first action item is approval of Ridge intercession fees.
Randy, I can make the motion. Whereas the 2021-22 balanced calendar for the Ridge Family Center for Learning Elementary Program provides time during the school year for 2 intercessions, 1 in September, October, and 2 in March, April. Whereas attendance at an intercession is in addition to the school year calendar, and families are required to pay a fee to participate in an intercession. Now therefore be it resolved that the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approve the following fee arrangements at Ridge Family Center for Learning for the 21-22 school year. September, October intercession, 8 days, $160. March, April intercession, 5 days, $100.
I'll second.
Are there any questions or comments before we take a roll call? Roll
I think
call?
only comment if there's families who qualify, there's fee waivers available.
Yes, there are fee waivers.
This is an action item, though.
Yeah, it's an action item.
Mardell, or Schumacher,
Aye.
Espino,
Aye.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia,
Aye.
Petrilli. Aye, Reed,
Aye.
and Sager.
Aye.
And the motion carries.
I'll do the next one. This is 8.02. Whereas 5 proposals were received for taxi cab service rates for the 2021-2022 school year, and whereas the district has stipulated not all services will be awarded to one company, now therefore be it resolved on the 3rd day of May 2021, the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 59 approves the following rates for taxi cab services as presented in the motion.
Second.
Any questions, comments before we go to roll call? Roll call?
Okay, Espino,
Aye.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia. Aye. Petrilli. Aye, Reed,
Aye.
Sager,
Aye.
and Schumacher.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
Shall I do the next one?
You want to do the next one?
Okay, whereas preparing students to be careful for life is the mission of Community Consolidated School District 59, and whereas the economic future of our community, state, and nation is dependent upon a knowledgeable and informed citizenry, and whereas the week of May 3rd through the 7th, 2021 has been designated as National Teacher Appreciation Week, whereas members of the Board of Education desire to recognize teachers and all employees of School District 59 for their dedicated contributions, now therefore be it resolved that on the 3rd day of May 2021, on behalf of the residents, parents, and students, and especially members of the Board of Education, the week of May 3rd to the 7th, 2021 is hereby proclaimed as Staff Appreciation Week within Community Consolidated School District 59. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that the President and Secretary of the Board of Education will sign the proclamation attached hereto, and a certified copy of the proclamation will be sent to each school within Community Consolidated School District 59.
Courtney will,
Courtney,
go ahead.
Okay, I'll second it.
Thank you, teachers in the back of the room.
Yes, thank you, staff. Anybody want to make comment or any questions?
Just a quick comment. I celebrate this all year long, not just.
That's a good point.
It is in there. Okay, Lang,
Aye.
Mencia.
Aye.
Patriarch, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
And the motion passes. I hope we started already with May 3rd. Did you start appreciating me already? Okay, good.
I'll make the motion 8.05. Be it resolved on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the ExxonMobil Educational Alliance Program donation from Rupley Elementary School in the amount of $500. This donation will be used to provide Rupley students math and/or science learning experiences and materials. Be it therefore resolved that superintendent shall communicate to the ExxonMobil Educational Alliance Program in writing, expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, and that this donation shall be listed in the official meeting minutes of this meeting.
I'll second it.
Rupley's done quite well.
Yes, we have. Anybody have any questions, comments? All right, roll call.
Mencia.
Aye.
Patriarch, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
And Lyon.
Aye.
And the motion passes.
I can do 8.06. Be it resolved that on the third day of May 2021, the Community Consolidated School District 59 Board of Education approves the ExxonMobil Educational Alliance Program donation to Salt Creek Elementary School in the amount of $500. This donation will be used to support Salt Creek students in the area of math and/or science. Be it further resolved that the superintendent shall communicate to the ExxonMobil Educational Alliance Program in writing, expressing the appreciation of the members of the Board of Education, and that this donation shall be listed in the official minutes of this meeting.
I will second. Okay. Oh, you have to do the vote? Good. Okay. Mencia.
Aye.
Patriarch, aye. Reed.
Aye.
Sager.
Aye.
Schumacher.
Aye.
Espino.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Okay. Moving along.
All right. I think we are on to new and continuing business and announcements. Board member attendance at 8th grade graduation ceremonies. We got 2 speakers. We're still looking for one at the, for Grove. Is it-
Can I also ask a quick question on this? So I see that Mardell is scheduled to speak at Friendship on Monday, May 24th at 6:30. Do we have a committee of the whole at 7 PM that night?
I think we were going to discuss the necessity for that meeting.
Got it. Okay.
What was the question?
Oh, that you are scheduled to speak at Friendship at the graduation on Monday, May 24th. And I thought there might be a committee of the whole scheduled for the same night.
Yeah, it was on the calendar.
I believe it's listed at 11.
Who are the other speakers going to be at Grove and Berlin?
I signed up for home.
You're going to Grove, and who's going to Holmes?
That's what I'm trying to
Robert's
figure out
going
right
to
now.
We need
We don't have somebody for Grove?
We don't have anybody for Grove yet?
No.
I'll do it.
Okay. All right, now, for the other board members,
So can I- well,
including the new
before-
board members,
Hold on, one-
usually board members accompany the speaker board member, and they help to pass out the diplomas and what have you. I don't have any idea what these graduations are going to be like compared to the ones that we normally have.
Yeah, 'cause
So
that was my question.
can you
What- that
give
was-
us any clue as to what it's all about?
They're limiting attendance for
Pardon me?
families. In terms of passing diplomas out, Marta, I don't know that if they're gonna do it that particular way.
I can't hear you.
I don't actually know what they're going to do in terms of that. So they're finalizing plans. They're going to follow the District 214 protocols because we're using all their spaces. So I don't have that detail yet. I know that they'd like to have, a speaker. I still don't know if that's going to be a Zoom speaker or in-person speaker. So as soon as they finalize, I'll share the rest of those
Oh,
details.
it could even be a Zoom, huh? Because I was going to say, are they going to be sitting in the bleachers? Are they going to be sitting on chairs down on the ground, or?
I don't
don't know
have the
anything, huh?
final details yet. I don't think, I think they're gonna have, right now, they're gonna have 2 family members per. If that changes, and it may, because I'm hearing that some of the other school districts are now allowing 4, so it's a little bit of a moving target right now. We're trying not to communicate out the wrong or misinformation, I do know that we've sent one letter to parents, so the two will be able to sit, the two guests will be able to sit in the stadium, and I believe that we'll have the chairs set up on the field. I'm assuming, I'm not positive yet. And I believe that we will have a number of speakers in person. I don't know if they'll have additional people or want additional people on the stage other than just a handful. Let me see if I can get the final details and put them in the board
Okay,
update
good.
Friday.
Makes
Right.
a difference as to how much we speak and so forth, depending upon our closeness and what have you.
Because I know I've been sitting at the Grove bleachers at the high school for track meets, and they have like, little green spot to sit on. And it doesn't look like you can get many people in, because it's every other row and then 6 feet this way and stuff like that. So I don't know how many really parents are going to get in there. So it could be tight. And I was also questioning about having additional board members attending because of, social distancing and stuff like that as well, too.
Yeah, just a personal thought that if people are like limiting and not letting their grandparents attend, I would prefer not to have a second board member. in the
Yeah,
second.
if it prevents a grandparent from coming, I'm kind of taking the same.
Yeah, unless they need us to like stand on the stage and hand out something. Or,
Well, we don't know how it's going to work with.
Then
handing
we're
out
not taking a
diplomas and
seat, but
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will do Grove next year. I've got a 7th grader.
It's going to be a real different experience.
So Patty, you can put your name in there then?
I said next year. Next year. Oh, no, Patty. Oh, Patty. Yes, do Patty. Patty this year. I'll do next year Grove. My daughter will love it.
She graduate?
I did it for my daughter.
Mine wouldn't let me do it for her. I was told no way in heck. She used more colorful than I did, but.
How much time do we get for the speeches? 45 minutes? 46?
Just, all I can say is, I think your limit is about 5 minutes, quick in and out.
I still have my speech on my computer.
I thought it was on your phone. It was on your phone.
It was on my phone, but I actually wrote it on my computer.
Okay.
And,
I just reached out to John Harrington. He's the lead middle school principal. I'll send some type of an update tomorrow, just so we have an idea.
And we can also say thank you to District 214 as well, too, for allowing us to use the facilities, because that's really generous of them.
I do know that we're moving our celebrations to after graduation to try to cut down on the possibility of any type of close proximity or kids eliminating themselves from attending the graduation. So some of those celebrations that were scheduled before, we're moving post. And we're actually having a conversation about giving parents the option to do remote the last 14 days of school, which would be next Monday for 8th grade students, so that, again, if they're in close contact, they don't miss their graduation as a result of being quarantined. So we were discussing that today, and we'll likely send a parent communication out on Wednesday for that. And it'll be parent choice, so it's not a mandate.
Excellent ideas, thank you. 9.02, committee assignments and process. Do you want to take that one?
Absolutely. So each year we have a number of board and superintendent committees. I've asked the members of the SLT, who typically will facilitate the committee, and then we have board reps that participate on these committees. We like to have at least 2. If we have more than 3, it's tough to be spontaneous to call a quick meeting because we have to post it, and we're not opposed to posting, and we do typically post all of our meetings anyway because we invite public participation. But it is nice to have no more than 2 whenever possible. So I've asked SLT to update the purpose and the scope of the committee. So Randy and I talked about this briefly, and we thought if the board could look through the committees, and if you're interested, put your name in the far right in this Google Doc, which you should have access to. And then at the next meeting, we can kind of discuss and finalize assignments. So homework is to look through the homework is to look through these committees, see what you're interested in, bring back any questions. If you put your name there, it's not a life sentence. It's just a placeholder for a conversation, so we can talk about it at the next board meeting. If you want to remove it or move someplace else, that's possible. And if you have any questions about these, feel free just to reach out to me. or Randy. He has a lot of experience with many of these committees.
Can anyone give us edit access just to make sure we all have edit access on the Google Doc?
And for my, once things get back to normal, are these committee meetings in person? Is that, because I mean, even when I joined the board, it's been Zoom the whole time.
Yeah, we've actually, even our weekly admin meetings, we've continued to do them Zoom just out of convenience, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with the possibilities. So at some point, and I don't know if we'll return to in-person this year, we may wait until the beginning of next year. And then, even in those cases, I think it makes sense to have an option, because sometimes it just is more convenient to be able to do it from your office or from your home, et cetera.
Art, can I ask you, if we had a board committee or a committee that had 3 board members on it,
Yes.
do we have any limitations with regards to holding it on Zoom?
Do we have any limitations?
Limitations, like if it's a public meeting because there's 3 board members present, that wouldn't.
We actually share the credential, so when we post it, anyone can
Okay.
attend that meeting. And again, we've been trying to post all of our committee meetings, again, so folks, if they'd like to attend, they have the credential and can attend that meeting.
Yeah, and I would like to try and keep it that way, because I'm going to try and go to as many committee meetings as I can, even if I'm the 3rd person in. I appreciate if they're posted, so.
Yeah, it's always been a practice of ours to post whenever we can. There have been a few exceptions, like again, if we have a couple committees that only have 2 people, and there were some communication things that were urgent a couple of years ago, so we had to pull the committee together to make some recommendations and get some feedback. But other than that, we try to post any meeting that we have advance notice of.
Can we communicate it more effectively to the parents that they can join these and they can become involved with it? A lot of times we do see the same kind of group of parents, which is great, but if we could open this up and if there was just a better way to communicate it out, to let them know that they're invited, they can join, they can participate, who's involved, they're welcome.
It's a good point, because we have a few parents who are in, but not enough.
Yeah, I mean, we can, as you know, we can do mass email. Anytime we're having a meeting, we try to be careful not to over-communicate, because then that, takes the, sometimes
We can
the,
limit it to certain number, but, I mean, two people is certainly not many.
But if we decide to, communicate to more families or parents and stuff, and, we start seeing large numbers, we also may not get stuff done as well, too, because we do encourage the public to participate in those discussions.
I
know
think
we
you should limit it.
Well, but if we open up to people, we say, okay, we want you to come, but then when because we reach our capacity, we can't have that. So I think there's a fine line we need to walk.
The history of having the committee meetings really was to try to allow for more public engagement. So I would say if you're getting large turnouts, that you just have some guidelines in terms of what protocols are and what participation looks like. So like currently right now, we have 1 or 2 people on average attend those meetings. So it's very manageable to have them, provide feedback or speak. If you have 20 or 30, you'd probably have to say that, we're going to wait till the end of the meeting and we'll take some public comment or something of that nature, and run it more like a formal business meeting versus just that committee meeting. But that was the history. But to Mardell, to your point though, if we are setting the credential, it's hard to limit it to people. And I would just suggest if we get a larger number, then just have some protocols for the process.
And Robert, what you're making me think as well is potential to do item for the communication committee. How can we be more proactive about sharing out the committees?
You had quite a few, Maureen, on yours in the beginning.
Yeah, we do. We get quite a few guests that come in.
Yeah.
So I'll add this to our next agenda, and then we'll discuss it and then make and finalize assignments.
And for our favorite part of the evening, Ross and 9.03 is FOIA requests.
Good evening. The HR department has appropriately responded to 2 FOIA requests since the last report to the board.
Agenda 10.0, reports of the Board of Education. Does anybody have reports to share?
I have a few quick ones. We had a wellness meeting since we met last. Randy participated as well. And obviously wellness has been a huge issue during COVID and they were diverted from their regular agenda. So the main update was that the vaccination van, which provides general vaccinations, we're not talking COVID specific, but that had some appointments set up, which was exciting. And we will meet again in the fall on wellness to kind of pick up with a more typical school year agenda. And then I also just wanted to mention that Juliet Lowe has been hosting a social justice discussion series, which both Robert and I have participated in. I believe Tuesday, May 11th will be the third of 4 discussions and really productive parent-led conversations. So it's been exciting for me to see parents sort of taking ownership of social justice and equity issues within the school and the community. And then the only last quick thing I wanted to mention is that I appreciated the really excellent communications article on the Little Mermaid production, and I ordered my tickets. And for anybody who might be listening who has not ordered your tickets, if you go to the 59 website and search for Little Mermaid, you can get the article pulled up, and it's at the very end of the article. You can get your tickets. So just encouraging you to do that. They are free.
I think one thing that you will see in your Friday update, we had our Facility and Finance Committee meeting on Monday, and one thing we talked about was putting the meeting minutes in the Friday update so everyone has that. We think it's a better way of communicating instead of waiting until maybe at this point in the meeting to talk about it. This way, if you have questions, you can reach out to Art or Rob or Ron or myself or Mardell or whoever else was on the committee. This way, we can kind of get that communication out quicker. Any questions you may have. I'm thinking maybe we want to start looking at that from more of our other committees, is getting those meeting minutes attached to the thing so everyone can read that stuff sooner, better than later. That's all I got.
Are we just making our comments now?
Reports
Yep.
of the board.
Yeah, reports the board. I'd just like to thank everybody who went and voted.
Mardell.
Because unfortunately, pardon me? Oh, unfortunately, it was a very, very low turnout. And it was one of the closest elections I've ever seen. And it just goes to show you every vote does count. There's no question about that. And I'm very happy that I'm with the 2 new people and with Robert again. And I'm sure our group will get along just fine and we'll have a lot to learn from each other. I am the historian unofficially. So I keep going through all my papers of everything that I have from the district. And I put this one together basically for board members because it's mostly about board members. So here's the new ones coming out. Here it goes. Which one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's everybody. Read it at your leisure. It's all old stuff, going way back to old superintendents and what the district was like long, long, long ago. So it will just give you some ideas.
I have a very brief report before the meeting. I had churros at Grove Junior High. The PTO had the food truck out there, and then tomorrow I'm having churros at Bird. And you had...
I think you better start joining me at the gym
were
every
delicious.
morning
I'm going back
before going to work.
I had funnel cakes at John Jay
churro.
today. Funnel cakes, yeah, we organize.
Pizza
Yeah.
truck at Low on Friday.
Oh, my,
Oh,
oh,
okay.
my Lord.
We need to do
What's going on
some
at Lowell?
Zumba classes.
What's that?
I think
Any,
Very good.
we have Art and the discussion for
So typically, this May 24th board meeting would focus on direction for next school year. Considering that there is a conflict with a graduation that evening and the fact that the incoming superintendent is not able to participate, I would suggest that we cancel that meeting on the 24th.
I have none.
Makes sense. Did you catch this? We are resolving the committee of the whole conflict on the 24th because typically it would be to discuss.
Exactly, yeah. Good, thank you.
Those are all the reports I wanted to share. I was going to update you on the 8th grade option for, that we'll send a communication out on Wednesday for choice for remote learning. Sorry.
And Dr. Fessler, is your last board meeting with us going to be the first June meeting then?
I believe so, unless we have 2 board meetings in June, but
Okay.
I think that's the last one, yes.
Okay.
All right. I got lost in my email, I'm sorry, hold on. I think we're ready for adjournment. Unless anybody else has anything else to say.
No.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right,
Okay, and it is 10:30.
29.
20, oh, what the hey, 29, I round up.
And we did 2 meetings.
That was impressive.
How about that?
And
Who's second?
I'll second. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm starting at the top.
Aye.
Lang,
Aye.
Mencia. Aye. Shirley, aye. Aye, aye. Gotta remember Chris. Reed,
Aye.
Zager,
Aye.
and Schumacher.
Yay!